Can you grab this? Is that okay?
It's already live streaming, so I'm gonna do it. Good morning, everyone. I am Janice Mathis. We are in front of the historic Dorothy Irene Height building. Dr. Dorothy Irene Height was many things. She was the godmother of the civil rights movement. She was the recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And she is the person who inspires us to this day as President Emerita of the National Council of Negro Women. I would say that we are delighted to have you here as our guest at 633 Pennsylvania Avenue, the only black-owned building on Pennsylvania Avenue. But you can't be delighted about the loss and suppression of voting rights. You can't be delighted about unequal pay for black women. So it's not a day to be delighted, it's a day to act. And we are here because we are not content to sit by the sidelines and watch as history parades by. We insist on helping to move the axis of history toward justice. And to help us do that is my partner in this endeavor, a sister beloved, an organizer to her heart, started out in Georgia and then found a larger stage on the national precipice here in Washington, D.C. Please join me in welcoming the convener of the Black Women's Roundtable, the CEO of the National Black Coalition on Civic Participation, my hero and our leader, Melanie Campbell.
Thank you, my sister, my leader, my soror, my friend, my sister that I would be glad to get in a foxhole with, and all of you, and all of you. So thank you so very much. This is, I think, we Black Women and Allies, Dr. Cole and Janice and a bunch of us, and Clay and a bunch of us, back in July. Like, how did we get here, Cora, right? How did we get here? We got here back in when the Senate decided, the U.S. Senate decided that they didn't have time. At least 50 Democrats were there, and this is just fact, not partisan. You couldn't get 10 Republicans to come and allow for a discussion, let alone a vote on protecting our voting rights. And so sisters got together and say, we got to do something. So we pulled together this thing called Black Women and Allies and had our first action on July 15th. So here we are on November 16th. But we're in no ways tired. My body tired. But we no ways tired. So we're here today, Black Women and Allies, for our voting rights and economic justice, freedom walk. And the thing about Janice, Dr. Height, I think she'd be smiling and thanking you for keeping, you and Dr. Cole, for keeping the fire burning here. Because we know not too far away from where we stand was one of the largest slave trading locations in the nation. So we're on holy ground. And so what better place to be to do this, what we're trying to do here, what we are doing here, and that's holding it down. To be the only building between the White House and the U.S. Capitol, Dr. Height educated us on and reminded us of often, owned by an African American, owned by a black woman. So we're here today to keep the fires burning until we win. Our voting rights are protected by passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Restoration Act, to pass the Freedom to Vote Act. But it's also about making sure our people have the resources. So it's also about economic justice. We helped pass that, get that $1.2 trillion package done. Infrastructure bill. We did that. You did that. Those are watching. Those who voted in 2020 did that. Be clear. People want to say, oh, that's not going to help our community. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We have to make sure that Come on up, sis. And so I'm going to shift to my duties, and that is to be a co-moderator today. But we're having this pre-rally, if you will, for the Freedom Walk, and then we'll do our Freedom Walk from here to the Supreme Court, and then we will have a speak out there, and we may do a little call to activism. We're just letting God move that mountain one way or another. My pastor here, so he praying with me for. But we have a sister who just got elected, not just got elected as a public servant, but just got elected to another position. I believe I'm right. She was the city councilwoman in Cleveland, Ohio. Am I correct? Okay. Congress. No, she was a city councilwoman. Am I wrong? Were you a city council before you became?
Yes, in
Warrensville. See? All right. Okay. And now she has taken the seat of Ohio 11. One of our leaders who's now serving, that's now Secretary Marsha Fudge, who is now the Secretary for the HUD, Housing and Urban Development. But our sister decided to stop by, and we are so excited. We welcome you to Washington, D.C. Her name is Congresswoman Shontel Brown. Shontel.
Greetings. Thank you, my sisters. It is an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to be before you today. When I got the call, it was on short notice, but when Angela Woodson calls, I come. That is my sister. And when we're talking about such important issues like passing legislation, I could not have been more proud to have cast my first major vote for that $1.2 trillion that's been worked on for 5 years. And they tease me. They say, you've been here on your second day and you got it done. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it, child. But that's what we do. As black women, that's what we do. We get it done. So when the call came to stand before the people so that we can call to action to get legislation passed for the John Lewis Restoration Act, Voting Rights Act, I could not resist. Voting rights is so critically important. When we talk about the vote, when we talk about the right to vote, the vote is the greatest equalizer of power in our country. Whether you are black or white, gay or straight, rich or poor, male or female, from GED to PhD, we all get one vote. So if we don't use our vote, we will find ourselves turning back, going back, reversing the hands of time. And that's what we're seeing before us right now. So it is so critically important that we use that vote in every single election. It cannot just be the presidential election. It cannot just be your gubernatorial elections. We have to vote in our local elections for our city folks, for our school board folks, because they are the ones that impact our everyday lives. And it's the local government, the states, that are putting forth legislation to suppress the vote so much now that's making it harder for us to get the vote, because they know what? That is the greatest equalizer. People don't try to take things away from you unless they have value. And so because of that, it is so critical that we at Congress move this legislation forward. And I am fully committed to doing the work to deliver results. That's what the people of Ohio's 11th Congressional District elected me to do, and that is what I intend to do. So we got phase 1, part 1 of the Build Back Better legislation passed, and we hope to be able to deliver part 2 this week. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers. Keep me in your thoughts and prayers. I love you, my sisters. I could not have expected or planned a greater welcome and reception. I love you, and I will continue to fight for you. So continue to support me, because one thing my sister, our sister, Secretary Fudge, said, if you stick with the people, then the people will stick with you. God bless y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we give our sister, are you in the sister circle, girl? We don't play. And not just in Washington, D.C., where we know we are, but all over this country. That's what we have to do as sisters. So, Mrs. Cora Masters-Berry, my mentor, my sister, my soror, and it's not a conspiracy, just a fact. It's a fact. But she's the former First Lady of the District of Columbia. She also is on the board of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. She was one of the sisters, along with Cleola Brown and others, who helped keep me in Washington, D.C., quite frankly, when I was trying to run away. And they told me to stay. And I did, and I don't regret a day of it. But she also had a vision over in Southeast Washington, D.C., to build the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center. And if you have not been there, and especially those of us who are here, you got to go. And if you go, you'll never let go. Because she is changing, transforming lives, making sure our children don't just have dreams and aspirations, but they are able to achieve them. And she don't stop with the children. She deals with the families. I've been blessed to be able to be a part of it in small ways. And I tell you, I never like to leave. And she never stops being a political scientist and activist and strategist. And so I can call her any time of day and any time of night, most of the time. So we bring up Mrs. Cora Masters-Berry. Cora, why are we here?
Why are we here? Well, first of all, I'll just give a shout out. My mayor may stop by before, if she doesn't come, upside down. I feel like Trump. Okay. Past statehood, along with the rest of them. D.C. statehood. Let's have a hand for D.C. statehood. All right. I won't take long because we have a great program today. I just want to say, as Janice Masters said, I always feel a kind of a Sankofa kind of feeling comes over me when I'm standing on this hollow ground of the National Council of Negro Women. All the stories that have been told that have happened in this building. When Dr. Haidt closed, and my husband at that time was mayor. And by the way, this is the only building owned by African Americans on Pennsylvania Avenue. And if you go down the street, you will see a statue of, the only statue of an African American in front of City Hall. That would be Marion Barry. Of a black man, excuse me. So why are we here? I said to the last time I was here, I apologized to the young people because we are here and we're putting it on their shoulders because they have to carry it on. Should have been resolved a long time ago. And here we are. And I always remind everybody, I was 22 years a professor of political science, that the way this democracy works, your freedom is at the bequest of whoever's in power. It's just a stroke of a pen. And here we are. So always remember that until we can get to a point where we can ensure our future by being probably the majority of minority majority, we're going to be fighting this battle. So just get ready. I'm going around the wind. I'm almost on the cane. I'm closer to 100 than I am to 50, but I'm still here. And I just want to do one more little thing is always acknowledge, a lot of people come, our county executive who I consider a friend and, I don't know, one of my children and friend and whatever. And a lot of young people are here. But this city has got a lot of D.C. local residents who are fighting the same fight everybody else is fighting. And we got to remember that you always don't forget your base. And so we've had a lot of people from the community support what we're doing here. I have a young woman here, Dion Reeder. I'll give her a hand. She runs a big family program in Ward 8, Family for Southeast Strengthening. And just acknowledge that you have not only the support of black women, because you win with black women people. I just won last week. I'm not going to talk about what it was about, but black women showed up. I'm telling you now, I'm telling you like Maya Angelou said about me to her. She said, if you have me on your side, you have a mighty army. If you got black women on your side, you got a mighty army. So thank you, and let's keep on marching.
Thank you, Sister Cora. And now, she already gave us a teaser, another sister, warrior, leader, who came all the way over from Prince George's County. Let me tell you something. This is she smiles, but this is a powerful sister. And they love you in Prince George's County. They love you, and we love you, and we thank you. And right, all over this country. And before she became the executive for Prince George's County, correct me if I'm wrong, state attorney for Prince George's County. So I tell you, when I first met her, I met a friend. I think I met her, Pastor, through you initially. But we are glad and so honored to have her come and stop by 633 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest at the Dorothy I. Reed Height Building, National Council of Negro Women, our sister, our friend, our leader, Honorable Angela Alsobrooks.
Thank you. Well, you know, I would say I'm honored to be here, which is true. But I have to also tell you the truth of the matter is I'm a little frustrated about having to be here as well, although I feel comforted by the fact that I'm standing with the true patriots in America. There's nothing like a black woman in America. If you want to talk about the conscience of America, I'm surrounded by the true conscience of America who have really held her really to the standard that she set. We want America to be as good as its promise. And I am a little frustrated to be here. As I was driving over today, I was saying to myself, well, we're asking for something that belongs to us. If you can imagine how frustrating it is and how angry you feel when something that has already been purchased. We're talking about freedoms that have already been earned for us. We think about John Lewis and the blood that he shed, that he was beaten to a pulp. We talk about Dorothy Irene Height. And so I'm not standing here today asking for something that doesn't already belong to us. We're asking for something that is already, that battle has been fought for so many years, for over a century. We've been fighting the same battle over and over again. And like Cora said, she's right about it. We don't even know why we're still here asking for something we already purchased. It's kind of like going to a store with hard-earned money you knew you earned. You bought something, got home, you looked in the bag and said, where is it? And that's how we feel today. We're asking that question again, where is it? And why must we continue to demand to have something that our foreparents fought hard, died over, suffered? And so we're standing on good ground today and on good authority. And so I feel comforted walking with my sisters today to ask Congress to do the right thing. They already know what it is. But I should tell you already that, you know, these days will pass, and I feel good that we will have the freedoms that we have fought for so many years. My daughter can't inherit this. She can't. We're talking about a generation that is waiting and watching and saying to each of us, you know what, if America is unequal, it's also unjust, and they understand that. And if it doesn't work for some of us, then it does not work for any of us. And so we're asking that America be as good as its promise. And I know that the freedoms that we have fought for will come to pass. They will come to pass. And so I'm just grateful to be here with my sisters today. If anybody can do it, black women can. If anybody can do it, will do it, have the courage to do it, black women will and can. And so let's march on today, see what the end will be. And I know that the best is yet to come. And so I thank you for having me here today to fight again with this group. And we know again that the freedoms are coming. So thank you so much.
Thank you, CEO Alsobrooks. I happened to be near the White House yesterday, and I ran into somebody who knew you. I explained that I had moved from Virginia to PG County a couple of years ago, and she started to effusively praise your leadership. Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, former Lieutenant Governor of the state of Maryland. So we don't need anybody to co-sign you. We know who you are. But I just thought you might be interested to know. Now let us move on with our program. You know, we don't do anything without organized labor in this movement. They really are there all the time. All the time. And representing she's the director of the Labor Project for Working Families, Family Values at Work. Please welcome Carol Joyner.
So, I I'm thrilled to be identified with organized labor. I've worked all my life to make sure that that is my identification. I stand behind my sister, Cleola Brown, who is a labor leader of unbelievable proportion, heading the A. Philip Randolph Institute. So it seems fitting that I would start with a quote from her esteemed past leader. At the banquet table of nature, there are no reserved seats. You get what you can take, and you keep what you can hold. If you can't take anything, you won't get anything. And if you can't hold anything, you won't keep anything. And you can't take anything without organizations. When we fight, when we fight, when we fight, thank you so much. I'm Carol Joyner, Labor Project Director of Family Values at Work and a paid leave for all activist. Thank you, Melanie and Janice, for bringing us back together to raise the voices of so many today who believe that it's time to build back better and that all of its critical components are vital for our families, our communities, and our economy. We're here today to say it's time for Congress to deliver on two things: to build back better and voting rights. We have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to pass a set of policies that our families and our nations need and have always needed: community care jobs, housing support, paid family and medical leave, and so much more. Now that the administration and Congress have passed the monumental Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, which is huge in so many ways, it's time for Part 2, Build Back Better, and Part 3, Voting Rights. National paid leave policy would promote public health, economic security, and racial and gender justice. With the other care policies alone in this bill, it would yield millions of jobs, billions in wages, and trillions in GDP. It would benefit everyone, including the women of color in healthcare and other essential workers who basically carried the nation on its back throughout the pandemic. It's time to build back better. But Mel and Janice, there's a Part 3, and it's voting rights. I've heard that as soon as the infrastructure bill is passed, that Build Back Better will be signed, and then they will take on voting rights, which will ultimately mean addressing the antiquated, racist filibuster. So I opened with Randolph's speech because we can't hold any of the progress we've made on infrastructure. We can't hold the progress we hope to make on Build Back Better if we can't vote. So we won't repair our crumbling infrastructure if we can't vote. We won't cut child poverty in half and make the child tax credits permanent if we can't vote. We won't make progress on much-needed immigration reform if we can't vote. We won't get and keep paid family and medical leave if we can't vote. We won't cool the planet down and address the crisis in the environment if we can't vote. And we won't make corporations and billionaires pay their fair share if what? We can't vote. So we've got to fight to the end. Part 2 is Build Back Better. Part 3 is voting rights. And it's yet to come. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Thank you.
Thank you for those dynamic words of encouragement, Carol Joyner. And now we will have the president of the Coalition of Labor Union Women, the executive director of Far Southeast Family Strength Collaborative, and Deborah Scott, executive director of Georgia Stand Up, National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, Unity Black Women Roundtable, and a state partner. So in this order, Elise Bryant, Dion Reeder, and Deborah Scott. Please welcome them as they come. All right.
All righty. My name is Elise Bryant. I'm the president of the Coalition of Labor Union Women. And when I got the call from Melanie, the song that came into my mind, even though I had 16 other things scheduled for today, I said, "We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes, until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons is as important as the killing of white men. White mothers' sons. And as we stand here, there are 2 trials going on in this country. But the murderers, right? And the outcomes of those trials is going to be very interesting, and we are all paying attention to it because we know the power of racism in this country. That's why they're so afraid of critical race theory. Mary McLeod Bethune said, enter to serve, enter to learn, depart to serve. So we know our history, and we learn our history because we are here to serve the good of all. We stand on the shoulders of the ancestors, of the ones who came here. We are not falling back. We are not discouraged. We are not going to fall down right, Cleola, because we're on the shoulders of Ida B. Wells. We're on the shoulders of Mary McLeod Bethune. We're on the shoulders of Dorothy Height. We're on the shoulders of powerful black women. Every woman represented here had a mother that brought her here into the world. Women were in labor long before men were in unions. And the power of the unions comes from us being able to vote. So we're not calling back anything we don't already have. We're just saying, America, do right by what you said you're going to do. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect, what? Union. What? Union. They didn't say assembly. They didn't say association. They said union. And they knew exactly what they meant because any one of us alone could be picked off. But us together make a fist. And there's the power of numbers, of us being together. And we wouldn't have unions without the vote. We wouldn't be out here without the vote. So we're going to make sure that America does right by what they're supposed to do. And we are the conscious of it. And as a black woman, I don't get to separate my identity. I don't get to be like black power person over here and feminist over here. I was born black and a woman. So I stand with all of you and our allies, because we cannot do this alone. We understand that nothing happens alone. It takes a power of the people to make it real. So thank you. Thank you for being here. We're going to march. We're going to march. We're going to do whatever we need to do because we together are stronger than any of us individually, and we have to make right what this country needs to do. We will make it right. Thank you. I'm a black woman. Tall as a cipher, strong beyond all definition, still defining place and time and circumstance, assailed, impervious, indestructible. We are the power of the future. Thank you.
When our rights are under attack, what do? We stand up and fight back. When our rights are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. When our rights are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Scott. I am the CEO of Georgia Stand Up, home of good trouble. I said good trouble in Georgia. Do I see some good trouble? Where's Helen and Felicia? We believe in good trouble, so we've been getting in good trouble for a number of years, and we have to keep fighting. We have to keep organizing and keep strategizing and keep mobilizing because Build Back Better is on our butts. Build Back Better is on us. Build Back Better. We want HBCUs. Any graduates of the HBCUs? I said Clark Atlanta University and the HBCUs need their money. Build back better. I said build back better. Build back better. Build back better. I said we're going to stand up. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep organizing. We're going to keep mobilizing. But after, and we only say after because that's the order of the process. So we're going to build back better. And then the second fist is going to be voting rights. I said the second fist is what? Voting rights. So we're going to build back better. And then we're going to pass what? Voting rights. I said voting rights for all. This is America. We stand on hollow ground. And not only do we stand on our past legs, our past sister warriors, but we have people standing on our shoulders. This is an intergenerational movement. If you're under 30, raise your hand. Yes. This is for all of us. This is for all of us. This movement is a continuum. The movement didn't stop. It's just intergenerational. We got to keep building it and keep lighting that fire. So what we want to say is, what are we going to do? Stand up and fight back. Stand up and fight back. Peace and love.
hello, everyone. As I stand here, I think about my own morning. And I said, I'm not going to be able to make this. That's how crazy it was since 6:06 a.m. I said, I'm not going to be able to make this. And what I realized is standing here wasn't about me being here for this movement. I needed to be here for me. I needed to be reminded that I'm a little different than a fighter. I'm a little different than a fighter. And I think we need to understand the difference. So we're talking about fighting. Fighters win battles. Warriors win wars. And what we up against now is a war in our country. This is beyond just fighting for our rights. While I do understand the movement behind fighting, but we in a war. We in a war against not just ourselves as black women, but our babies. I took my granddaughter out last night and she said, we need to go to fancy restaurants once a week. I said, we're going to go to a fancy restaurant once a week. And the reason why that's important, because she needs to know how empowered she is to have a grandmother like me that's a warrior. So beyond just fighting for our voting rights, we got to understand the importance of economic justice. I represent a population of people that I support each and every day, 75,000 of them, in the most challenged neighborhood in the District of Columbia, with the unemployment rate higher than any place in this city. On top of that, you got 35% of those individuals living below the AMI poverty line. Then I have another responsibility of represented as the chairperson of one of the largest housing authorities in the United States of America, where we are arguing over whether or not people deserve a better way to live. We're arguing over whether or not you should be on this committee or this commission because you don't come with real estate experience. And I say to that, the devil is a liar, because I come with human development experience. And I know the only way my people can move beyond the circumstances that they in is they get the economic opportunity that all of us who live across the east of the river have the ability to deserve and enjoy. Oh, see, I live in Ward 1. Most people think I don't deserve that. But I spend 12 to 14 hours of my day in Ward 8 because I'm a warrior woman. And it's important for us to understand, in order to move people out of poverty, they got to be able to vote. But they don't see the importance of voting because they have so much economic, you know what? They're economically challenged and enchained. They're chained up. So they don't see the importance. But I stand with them today and I tell them, we're going to vote, we're going to win, and we're going to continue to win the war because we warrior women. And we're going to stand up to whatever's come. I don't care how emboldened people think they are. If we got to fight and win the war for what we deserve, then that's what we standing up here to do. So, ladies, we're going to win this war. Because not only are we fighters, but we warrior women for the right of those individuals that can't speak for themselves. So that's the 80,000 people I represent. God bless y'all, and I'm ready to go for it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we're going to hear from one of the most influential voices in all of organized labor. Her title doesn't really adequately describe what she has been to all of us. For years, I didn't know where she lived because I saw her in California, I saw her in New York, I saw her in Chicago, I saw her all across the South. But her real title, and she's been such an inspiration to so many of us, not because she was older, but because she was wiser. She could see further around the corner, as they say. If you don't know who A. Philip Randolph is, Google him. He was a pioneer, and the institution that is named for him, his legacy organization, the A. Philip Randolph Institute, fights for working people each and every day. Please welcome their leader, National President, A. Philip Randolph Institute, Cleola Brown.
Janice, I can remember those days when we were walking with Reverend Jackson. And this little fresh woman right here was the only thing that could control him when he thought that he was going to do something wrong. You would see her hand move from the side and her snatching at that coat, pulling him into rain, making sure that he stayed on the road to justice. And she did a good job of doing that. A good job of doing that. Not only that, don't let that little small piece of height fool you. That sister right there stands in every inch that she is pumped up to be, and then some more. So for your leadership, sister, we say thank you. Thank you so much, sister. We appreciate your leadership. And to our Dorothy Height of today, to the sister that is more inclusive than anybody I know, that will reach to the side, to the front, to the back, and say, come on. When you don't have anything that you can do on your own, Melanie Campbell will find it for you and stand with you every step of the way. That's our Dorothy Height for these days and these times. It's amazing when we have sisters who are leaders that are unselfish, that stay on the road to the cause and not just because it's going to benefit them. Look behind me and to the side of me, and you see those who understand the real principles of power. It's some bad behind sisters up here. Yes, Lord, there is. And I'm trying my best not to say a cuss word today, but I'm going to say this one. It's some badass sisters up here today, okay? I mean, you look at Angela Alsabrook standing here just quiet and ladylike. I've seen her stretch across the table, and there wasn't nobody there that was shorter than her, but she covered that. She covered that. We can look everywhere we choose to, and there is power. That same little innocent one that's sitting on that ledge over there, Core Masters Berry, you don't want to mess with that. And if you don't know, you better ask somebody, okay? Because where I'm from in South Carolina, they say if you're going to pick with her, you better pack a lunch because you're going to be there for a minute, all right? That's a bad sister. I could call the entire roll of the folks that are standing here and tell you how awesome they are. But to talk about them is one thing. To see them in action is a whole nother thing. And when you see them in action, you see a crowd. Because anyone who stands out by themselves is just walking. But when you got somebody behind you, you are a leader. And that's what these sisters are. And when they start to muck around with voting rights and shoving it around on the schedule, there was one word said very quietly by our Dorothy I. Height. She says, enough is enough. That was the rallying cry that put us together. Enough is enough. And now that we know how the progression is going, enough is going to continue to be enough until we get what we're fighting for. And that means if we have to scream every day, if we have to march every week, if we have to cuss a little bit, if we have to pray a whole lot, if we have to turn to the preachers, if we have to turn to the teachers, we will say, come on and join us, because that's what we have to do in order to bring the kind of power that's necessary to make them uphold the promises of the law of this land. A quiet, nice lady never gets anything. I'm telling you what I know, y'all. Sometimes you have to go smooth to ignorance to make them know that you are paying attention. And smooth to ignorance, there is no shame in that. There is no shame in that, because then you are standing for something. You are not falling for anything that they say. One thing that we don't want to miss either is to know where power is. Now, this sister I'm going to call up here is probably going to be mad at me for doing it, but I'm going to have her come and stand beside me, because this is the kind of strength you need. Alyssa McBride is the Secretary-Treasurer of AFSCME. Come here, sister. Now, I know some of y'all saying she ain't no black woman. She is an ally, and she is my sister, and I'm proud to have her stand beside me, okay? This sister is the secretary of AFSCME, one of the largest unions in this country. Her is the one that writes the checks, okay? Don't play. Not only that, but when it's civil rights, she stands up inside of the house of the AFL-CIO. This sister right here, I had the privilege of working with her side by side on the Racial Justice Task Force that dealt with civil rights and human rights and women's rights. And you know who was the strong fighter? This one right here. So don't sleep the color, y'all. Our sisters come in a rainbow of colors, and they do the job. Thank you, sister, for coming up here. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, my sister. Today, I salute all of you for having the courage to be out here. I salute all of you for all that you do. I have talked way too long, but I feel pretty good. I'm ready to walk now. Thank you, Melanie, for having me here. And right back to you, Sister Janice.
Thank you, Cleola. And thank you, Alyssa. If you're a fan, if you're a subscriber to Glamour Magazine, you've seen this woman at work. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, when you work side by side with somebody, you get to know them pretty good. We had adjacent offices in the Atlanta Life building for over a dozen years down in Atlanta. And I got to know this sister pretty well. I knew she was extremely intelligent. Came out of corporate America because her heart and her conscience was telling her that there was something better for her to do. This sister worked directly with Dr. Joseph Eccles Lowry, built the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda in Georgia, first in Atlanta and then all across all 159 counties of Georgia. And so we are so delighted to have her and so glad in our souls to know that there's enough justice that she would be in Glamour Magazine as a Woman of the Year, because she deserves it. She deserved it a long time ago, but so often we don't get everything that we deserve. And so we're just glad that she looked glamorous in Glamour, too. Please join me in welcoming Helen Butler, convener of the Georgia Black Women's Roundtable and executive director of the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda.
Good morning, good morning. I am so honored to be here with Janice, my sister, and my other sister, Melanie Campbell, and all of these fabulous black women and allies. I am really honored to be here, but I'm saddened to be here at this juncture in time. You know, the Atlanta, Georgia, is the cradle of the civil rights movement, right? Dr. King, when he was talking about the Voting Rights Act, he said, I got to have jobs, good jobs. I got to have health care. I got to have economic justice. Got to have criminal justice reform. But you know what we got to have most is the ballot. And guess what? We're still fighting for the ballot. We're still fighting to have the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Because black women are powerful in Georgia, right, Felicia? We made a difference, but they're coming for us. They're trying to take the power of some of the top black women in Georgia. But guess what, Deborah? We got them, right? We're not going to be, our power is not going to be taken. So we're calling on Congress right now, today. I know you're talking about Build Back Better. Yeah, we got to have that. But we got to have that right to vote and those protections of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. They're trying to draw us out of power. We won't be drawn out. We're still fighting because black women have always been on the front lines. We may not have gotten the glory, Melanie, but that's not what we do it for. We do it for the betterment of our community. So we're asking you today, Congress, pass the Freedom to Vote Act with those standards that we need nationally. Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We've got to have preclearance. DC statehood is a must. And guess what? That little procedure that you call the filibuster is got to go. Did you hear me? It's got to what? Go. It's got to what? Go. It's got to what? Go. Do your job, Congress. We're coming for that check that Dr. King spoke about. It had insufficient funds. We want those sufficient funds to be deposited today. Freedom to Vote Act, John Lewis Advancement Voting Rights Act, and DC statehood in the filibuster.
Thank you so much for those inspiring words, Helen. And now we're going to hear from two other sister leaders, Letitia Daniels Jackson, convener of the South Alabama Black Women's Roundtable, and Emily Ingram, member of the Alabama Black Women's Roundtable. You see, this Black Women's Roundtable is not just here in Washington. It's in Georgia, and South Carolina, and Alabama, and North Carolina, and Ohio, and all across this country, linking us together in a vision for equal rights and equal protection and due process. Letitia Daniels Jackson and Emily Ingram, please come in that order.
Good afternoon. I bring you greetings from Dothan, Alabama, where we've been fighting voter suppression for decades. It didn't start this year. We've been fighting it since the 60s and before that. I want to focus a couple of minutes that I have on the attack on our voting rights. We are witnessing across this country unprecedented threats to our democracy and our right to vote. Our very democracy is at stake today. But let's be clear. What we are witnessing demonstrates that they will do anything to hold on to power, anything. That includes tearing down our democracy and ripping up the Constitution. Our power at the ballot box is at stake. They are laser focused on making sure that black and brown people's votes do not count. Those of us here, we've always known the power of black women at the ballot box. We are the choir. But what has happened in recent years, the rest of America has understood the power of the black sister vote. Be clear, those who have analyzed elections and pontificated on election results for decades have always known that black women is the highest voting group in this country, bar none. The fear that they have currently right now is the fact that now everybody else knows it too. And it started in Alabama in 2017 when they could not deny the power of the sister vote in Alabama when we elected Doug Jones in a special election. Then it went on to Georgia in 2020 when we voted for and elected not one, but two progressive U.S. senators who have our interests and our issues as their platform. So be clear, this is about stopping us. This is about stopping the power of the black sister vote, and we will not stand for it. Black women have been voting, as I said earlier, for decades, for centuries. Now we need for our votes to be protected. One person, one vote must be protected. That is what this is all about. If we cannot vote and our vote is counted, none of this other stuff matters. None of it matters. You can build back better, you can do infrastructure, you can do everything. But when we get to the ballot box and they want to decide who wins an election based on what they think and not the vote, then we really have a problem. So I say today that, and not only that, when we talk about the attack of black women, this attack clearly is on attack of black women and their power at the ballot box. This attack is also about having a black woman in the White House as vice president. We have an unprecedented attack on our black vice president right now, Sister Kamala Harris. And we stand with her and will not allow you to tear her down. We will not allow you to tear her down. We understand clearly what this is all about. And we will come back here every week. We will be in your face. We will be in your church. We will be in your grocery store. We will be at your house. We'll be in your office. We'll be everywhere you are until you do your job and pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act I think you should do that first, as a matter of fact. But we'll take number 3 as long as you do it. Do your job.
No justice?
No peace.
No justice?
No peace.
All right, all right. Look, you know, we got some great, good folk from Alabama, you know, that typically come in song fashion. And that's the Fiery Rose Sanders and Latasha Brown. And Sheila Tyson been known to sing a verse or two. But I haven't heard you, Letitia. But, you know, Sheila Tyson is the convener of the North Alabama Black Women's Roundtable. and she desperately wanted to be here today, but she had a surgery. But she wanted to be here today to get in some good trouble with these good women behind me. And I'm going to tell you, she sent me in her stead, and I want to stir the pot a little bit. Okay, so, I was thinking about protecting our voting rights, and I was trying to grasp it in my hands, and I was like, well, let me do it a different way. So, when we were young, we were taught how to protect our pocketbook. And I'm from the South. Y'all almost say pocketbook. But, we were taught to protect our pocketbook. And you didn't let nobody put anything in it. You would be careful about where you placed it, And that's how we took care of our pocketbook. And then, you have to use that mighty arm sometimes, But then I thought about it some more, and Congress, we're going to say Big Brother, they got purse strings. They got our purse strings. And can I just say that not all Congress members are created equal, that some of them, they come from different places. And I'm, for the sake of this, I'm talking about my pocketbook, they came from, they're part of a game, the voter suppression game, you see. And every now and then, they'll pull on my purse strap. And they try to take out something that's valuable to me, take out something that I have that they didn't give me. You see, and what that is stuff like my voting rights, y'all. And when they take that away, they allow people to come and take something from me, and that's a thief. If you take something from me and I didn't give it to you, you're a thief. So we got these state thieves, the legislators. Stay with me. We got these state thieves that come in, and from Alabama, they put HB 285 in my pocketbook. Tell you about HB 285, and I want to read it off this paper so I can be factual. 285 prevents election officials from making reasonable accommodations to older voters and voters with disabilities by allowing them to cast their vote curbside. Now, that wasn't even a law in Alabama, but we did a good thing in 2020. We turned up and turned out, and now they're trying to stop us before it even becomes a law. So just stay with me. Okay, you just stole my voting right. You're trying to steal some of those, and then, this has to stop. It's just that simple. It has to stop. Congress needs to do their job, and when I want to add one other thought too, Alabama, we did a thing, but overall, reports say lawmakers have introduced at least 389 restrictive bills in 48 states in 2021. All of these steal and destroy tactics. Thieves, y'all. Congress needs to act as our insurance. Help us secure our bag. Okay, so secure the pocketbook. And the way they can do that is passing the John Lewis Advancement Voting Rights Act. That's how you do it. And just like our president, Melanie Campbell, said, we're going to continue to fight until we see justice. So we're going to keep doing this. And we're not going to fight because you're trying to take our valuables, and we're not vulnerable victims. We're fighters, and I said fighters, but my sister over there said we warriors. Okay, we are warriors, and we are ready for war. We're going to go to work. So I'm going to tell you to all of my sisters, you stay encouraged. Don't give up. We're going to keep applying pressure. We're going to apply the pressure until this is done.
Y'all fired up? Yeah. You fired up? Well, we have a permit crisis here. So I'm trying to figure out, we got a few more speakers, but we got to start at 1 o'clock. Timekeepers. We got 17 minutes. Okay. All right. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the folks that are lined up to speak, do you mind speaking at the Supreme Court? Or if they do 2 minutes. Or do 2 minutes. It's your choice. 2 minutes. All right. Program keeps moving.
All right, now we're going to go to one of the early and one of the few environmental activist, HBCU Green Fund, Felicia Davis.
So I got my charge. That means, you know, when Melanie says 2 minutes, she got a hook already ready for me. So I just want to say this. A lot of people felt a lot of ways when they saw our children in the streets talking about Black Lives Matter. So as a mother and grandmother, I was a little bit concerned. I said, they're my babies in the street trying to let the world know that they Black lives, right? So I'm seeing Black lives marching in the street. Well, my baby turned to me and said today, Mom, you going to march for voting rights? And she said, well, I'm feeling a little concerned about you at your age still having to watch for voting rights. So in thinking about the past year during the pandemic and all the work we did, because we knocked doors before there was a vaccine. We made it happen when there was no vaccine. Helen Butler, we were in the street with no vaccine, knocking the door, jumping back 6 feet with a mask on, saying, come on now, we got that done. And now I'm here today in the shadow of my illustrious Dr. Dorothy Irene Hyde. And I'm marching again. So let it be known, because I love my sisters, right? But I was born impatient, okay? I was born impatient, and I was never nice, okay? I try to smile, and I try to get with all them because they so nice. They so nice. But I'm like this. I've been badass from the moment I was born. I'm coming up at you. When my sisters say warrior, I'm like, who? Zulu was me. I'm like toy to the bone. So I want you to know, Joe Biden, you better talk to Kamala to help you out, because Felicia is coming up at you. Coming up at you. I am over it. We resurrected dry bones. And my pastor over here, he keeps me in check. But he told me about the dry bones. And my sisters breathed some life into some dry bones. So the time is now. We're not waiting. And I'm passing the mic because my 2 minutes are up.
Good job. Felicia is a warrior. I told you that this Black Women's Roundtable is all over the country. So now we're going to hear from Ohio, Florida, and Eastern Michigan Black Women's Roundtable. Angela Woodson, co-convener, Ohio Black Women Roundtable, and executive director of the Greater Cleveland Voter Alliance. Gail Gardner, member, Florida Black Women's Roundtable, Florida Coalition of Black Civic Participation, and Tamika Ramsey, convener, Eastern Michigan, Metro Detroit Black Women's Roundtable, and the Michigan Coalition on Black Civic Participation. Please welcome these sisters as they come.
Thank you, my sister. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Look, we here to start good trouble today. And my sisters from the South think being in the North is easy. It ain't easy. It's not easy. It doesn't seem to catch the virus of this voting suppression up in the North, and in Ohio, we're being attacked every day. Every time we think we're sleeping, they're awake, creating another bill. We got 2 bills in our Ohio legislature right now to make IDs tougher for people to show up and vote. They want to get rid of curbside voting. They want to get rid of drop box voting. That's what's going on right now in Ohio. So you say we don't need a John Lewis Act for real? No, we need it today, like right now. And Ohio, along with my sisters from every state that's behind me, we're not stopping. We're going to keep this good trouble and this train moving until you get it right. You get it right and get it right now. There's no reason why in 2021 we all can't vote and have no issues in voting. My son is always asking me, technology is here. Why can't I just go online and vote now? And I have to tell him, son, it's sad because he's in Texas and that's a whole nother drama. That's a whole nother drama. But the whole fact is, I tell him the sad part is we're still trying to get it right today, just in the regular fashion. The fact that they're going to question whether you're a citizen or not. The fact they're going to question whether you live there or not. So we need this act to pass now. We not going to stop. Like my sister said, we warriors, we badasses, and we coming every week till you get it done.
Call me and I'll show up for sure. Good afternoon, almost, I think. Is it there? I want to say to you that thank you, Melanie, for inviting me as a member of the Black Women's Roundtable in Florida. My convener, my national convener, my state convener, Solandra Benton. Give a shout out for her. She's watching. Yes, and my chapter, Diana Johnson. I want to say to you all, how many baby boomers do we have? Anybody a baby boomer besides me? I'll be 75 next year, and I'm determined that until I lay down, I'm going to keep marching, keep doing what needs to be done. But I shouldn't have to. This is 2021. I remember stuff like this being done in 1960s. And why are we still doing this? This is really, a little, like I said, frustrating. But I'm determined at this time that we need to see something else happen and leave it there. This is a legacy leaving time. We baby boomers need to know that we're leaving a legacy for the next generations and those afterwards. And the things that need to be passed now need to go forth as we speak. I don't know how many things that's still on the table, but I know we got some states with some ugly actors in it. And we got to even look at my state. And I want you to know that we need to start calling them to attention. We need to be able to vote so we can get some of them out of office. That's the problem. They done got comfortable. And they start thinking that this is what they can do. They done took the sheets off, some of them. Come on. And they've already started to look at another direction at who they want 2024, who they want 2028. They're going on down the line. And we can't afford to sleep right now. We've got to move it and make it move fast. We got to call it like it is. It is thievery, as my sister said. They want to steal it from us, but it's worth something. It is valuable. It means they get to stay a little longer and to waste our time and forget that we're here. We're not going to have that. We've got a bunch of women behind us. I'm so proud to be standing along this group of women. I don't know what to do. I'm honored to be here. This is much more than what I would have ever thought and dreamed. But I know that one day we're going to pass on, and we need to go ahead and make sure that this gets done right now. Not later, not next year, not the year after, but right now. So I'm saying to you all right now, we're going to keep coming, and we're coming in force. I like that warrior. Yes, we're warriors. And that we have faith without works is dead on arrival. So I'm saying to you right now, we're going to make it move. We're going to make it happen. And it's our time. And we're looking for it to happen even now. So make sure you get your votes out. Yeah, everyone who's listening. But the rest of us need to put some work to our faith. If we believe it can be done, let's keep pushing and call them accountable and call them where they need to be called. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tamika Ramsey, and I am from Michigan. How are you? So I am saying we have heard the progression. We have heard that our ancestors have been having this fight. We have heard that the backs of our mothers and grandmothers have worked and did not know or think that we would be in this position here today. So I am telling y'all, we done with this bullshit, right? We done. We done. I'm not here asking anymore. I'm not here asking. We too hard. We work too hard for this. We are here to take what is ours. We have paid for it. My grandmother has paid for it. Miss Melanie has paid for it. Why do you want my daughter and my grandchild to pay for this? How much more do y'all want from us? We have taken care of this country. We created this country. And all we're asking is for what is ours. And y'all refuse to give it to us, and we done asking, right? We are done asking nicely. So from now on, whatever is ours, we going to take it. We going to snatch it out your hands if we got to. We don't have to ask for what was paid for. We don't have to ask, right? I told y'all should have asked when Miss Melanie said it, right? Because now we here. Now we here in this generation and future generations to come don't got time to ask for what is ours. It has been paid for. I also want to say that black women around this country have been organizing and fighting. We have been asking and begging for a seat at the table until Melanie came and built a table for us. In Michigan, we are fighting for our lives for voting, right? We passed laws, and they said, oh, too many of y'all black people that came out to vote, and they trying to take it. And you know who was introducing the vice president of the United States of Michigan? Miss Melanie Campbell. So I want to say from Michigan, Black Women Roundtable, we want to tell Melanie, because of all the amazing work that she has done, all of the leadership that she has provided for not only me, but my daughter. Without her, we wouldn't be here today. And people need to understand that. And Melanie needs to know how much we love you and how much we hold you up, because they be trying to tear you down because they know you don't come by yourself. You come with all of us. So they trying to take you down, so we trying to take them out. We ain't got time for that. So we want to say thank you from the Michigan Black Women's Roundtable and the Michigan Coalition on Black Civic Participation. You are our community leader, Melanie. You have helped us and will continue to help us. And if we go to jail, we know we good. We got bail money. When it's time to lay our heads down in D.C., when we coming from across the country, you done took care of us. So we just want to say thank you, and because of you, we will continue to.
Now we're going to prepare to line up 2 by 2 to your right, to my left. And as you're lining up, I want to thank the members of the National Council of Negro Women. If you would just raise your hand if you're a member of NCNW. We want to thank you for being here. I see Ms. Ebony Price, who is our Community Outreach and Engagement Officer, is here with us today. Raise your hand, Ebony. I saw somewhere our Director of Philanthropy, Ms. Hannibal Booker, is standing right there. And so I want to thank my NCNW folk. Now, you know, they not all that used to protesting, but they're going to get used to it. They're getting used to it because good health wins. Who is that? Ajwa Osei? Good Health Women's Immunization Network. If you haven't taken the shot, take the shot. You don't want the alternative. You don't want the alternative to the shot. On behalf of the National Council of Negro Women, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. This is the home of Black women's activism in Washington, D.C. You are always welcome here, Melanie, Black Women's Roundtable. Our home is your home. So we thank you, and we're going to take a few pictures, and then we're going to line up and walk 7 blocks, 1 mile to the United States Supreme Court. Why the Supreme Court? Because the Supreme Court in 2013 gutted the Voting Rights Act. You never would have all these voter suppression laws if we still had Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. But they knew this day was coming. They knew Warnock was coming. They knew Kamala was coming. They knew that Barack Obama had already been elected, so they knew it was time to batten down the hatches and try to keep it from happening again. And that's why we got Shelby v. Holder that tore up the Voting Rights Act. And that's why we need new federal legislation to protect your right to vote. So we're going to march now from here. We're not going to block any streets. We're going to stay on the sidewalk. We're going to march 2 by 2. If you would line up on this sidewalk. I am reminded that NCNW is an organization of organizations. And one of those organizations is here today, convened by Dr. Daly, the National NBC, something.
National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women's Clubs Incorporated. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, our former president.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for being here today.
All right. No justice. No justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? No justice! No justice!
No, I'm going to get it now. That's why I'm going to get it.
How you doing, ladies? Janice Mathis! Calling on Janice Mathis!
Wait a minute.
Where's Helen? Can we need you two? Try to be 2 by 2, y'all. Try to be 2 by 2. Where's one? I'm gonna go get Jen. Okay.
Give her just a minute. I thought Helen was going to ride with me. She has another car.
Melissa? Yeah. No. Elise. I know. I'm getting it. Somebody kiss you. Oh, they right here. Yeah. No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
So black women, allies, are y'all ready for the freedom walk?
Yes.
Are you ready for the freedom walk?
Yes.
One, waiting on Janice. Waiting on the sister. We can't leave the sister. Okay? Let's give the National Council of Negro Women a thank you clap for hosting us again. I feel Dr. How you feel. I do. I do.
All right, tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Ain't gonna let nobody
turn me round, turn me round, turn me round.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching out the freedom land. Keep on talking, marching out the freedom land. Ain't gonna let voter suppression. Ain't gonna let voter suppression turn you around. What? Turn you around. What? Turn you around. Ain't gonna let voter suppression turn you around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom land. Ain't gonna let the filibuster turn me round. What? Turn me round. What? Turn me round. Ain't gonna let the filibuster turn me round. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom land. What do we want? Voting rights. What do we want them? Voting rights. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. All right. Ready, Mark? Wait.
For those just joining, we are with a bunch of incredibly inspiring, dedicated Black civil rights leaders who are marching to the Supreme Court to call upon Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court to enact federal protections of voting rights by passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, and making D.C. a state. Because currently, almost 1 million voters, mostly Black, cannot vote, who live in the District of Columbia. We're going to be marching from downtown Washington, D.C., close to the archives, to the Supreme Court. We've been hearing from women from all the major unions, the National Black Women's Roundtable.
Yeah.
Fire up! Ready to go! 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 Fire up!
We are here today because we're entering a terrifying time for people's right to vote, entering an era of the new Jim Crow, where 400 voter suppression bills have been introduced in various state legislatures all over America, all targeting people of color, all in response to 2020, a year where more black people voted than ever before.
Voting rights! Economic justice! 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 Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! What do we want? Justice! What do we want it? Now! What do we want? Voting rights! When do we want them? Now! What do we want? Voting rights! When do we want them? Now! What do we want? Voting rights! When do we want them? Now! What do we want? Voting rights! When do we want them? Now! What do we want? Voting rights! When do we want them? Now! What do we want? Voting rights! When do we want them? Now! What do we want? Voting rights! When do we want them? Now!
All these voter suppression laws, which have been enacted in states like Texas, are based on the fraudulent claim that there's some kind of cheating happening by Democratic voters, something that's been widely disproved by attorneys and academics continuously. There are almost no fake votes cast in America. It's not a thing that happens. And so what's happening is in communities of color, polling places are closed. People are no longer allowed to have volunteers assist them in their voting prices. Absentee ballots are being cut way back. Early voting is being cut way back. Weekend voting is cutting way back. And all of these things target working in communities of color, something the Republicans are counting on to keep the democracy in a state of hostage where only the incredibly white and incredibly privileged are able to vote easily. Abolishing the filibusters also plays a really huge role in today's event because currently Democrats have no hope of passing federal voting rights legislation so long as we need a supermajority to pass these protections, things which should have been protected under the Voting Rights Act. How are you feeling?
Fine, how are you?
Good. So do you mind speaking with us?
Not at all.
What are you doing here today for people just joining now?
My name is Reverend Mark Thompson. I'm here as an ally of the Black Women's Roundtable. I'm also a life member of the National Council of Negro Women. Black women have made the difference in the past few elections. Black women defeated Donald Trump. Black women defeated Roy Moore. Black women elected Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And black women need to be heard. And when black women are heard, it really is on behalf of all of us in the country. It's on behalf of black men, middle class people, working class, white women, LGBTQIA immigrants. Black women address the problems, and the black women as an electorate, as the true base of the Democratic Party, represent so many people because the interests are so tied up together and there's so many overlapping interests. So when we support black women, we all support ourselves.
Yeah, that's everything you're saying is just so true. And it feels sort of bittersweet to be here and hear people talking about, like, we already won this fight decades ago. Why are we back?
Well, I don't know that we won it. I think, frankly, that's one of the mistakes we make generationally. The fight's never really over. Our enemies never seem to forget their calling, and they continue to carry out their calling, and that is to suppress the vote. So we keep seeing history repeating itself, whether it was the lynchings in the 1900s and voter suppression, whether it's modern-day lynchings today in the form of police violence and voter suppression. These things they keep happening. So I think our generation and those in between and those behind us have got to decide that the fight is not over. We have to continue the fight. It never rests. We live in a country that is still besieged with racism, classism, sexism. I mean, why are we still talking about Roe v. Wade? We thought that fight was over. I mean, we think these things are over, but they never are. And that is the nature of America. Why are people upset about critical race theory, which basically is not being taught in schools, but more of, I mean, it's history. So we don't want to teach history. We don't want people to know the truth about Columbus. We don't want people to know the truth about the period of enslavement. So until we realize that there's still a lot more that has to be done to change the culture of this country, that fight is never really over. We've not won yet.
Well, and I think you're making a really good point, right? We're here today talking about very specific bills and policy interventions, but until we have a culture of nonviolence, this stuff will always come back up. Columbus was a genocidal maniac. And you see people like, oh, why are people so woke? I don't think it's terribly woke to say we shouldn't murder people in mass numbers.
Right. No, telling the truth about history is not woke at all. That's just the way it's supposed to be. But in the context of this country, it's not just a culture of nonviolence. We need a culture that is non-white supremacist. This country was built on white supremacy. It continues to be sustained on that level. And, I mean, let's be honest. Again, as history, as I said, continues to repeat itself, there's a whole group of people in this country, maybe even a fourth of the country, I hate to think it's half, but at least a fourth of the country supports the insurrection, wants another civil war, romanticizes it, in fact.
They play dress up down south. They literally dress up in Confederate uniforms, go out in the fields and like redo it.
Yeah, no, it's total cosplay, but then it got real. Like, you know, you can almost do a meme when cosplay gets real on January 6th. And I'll just be honest, I'm sure.
I shouldn't laugh. It sounds funny.
No, but I'm sure some of them fools probably didn't realize it was going to get real. But then once you're there, you're caught up in it. And it's very, very dangerous. And then you have Steve Bannon promoting it, even on television yesterday, flouting and denying his contempt charge. So, you know, if you don't have history to teach people, if we're not making people aware of the mistakes in history, then you're going to continue to have this cosplay that will become violent and dangerous. So this is necessary. All that those of us in the world of civil rights and social justice can do to bring to the forefront the real issues that are affecting people and fight for change, that has to happen in order to prevent us from literally going back.
Well, and I love what you say. White supremacists never forget their calling. I think that's really true.
No, they don't forget their history, but they want us to forget ours. Some of us do. And frankly, I think we all can do better. I think those of us who are members of historically oppressed communities, be black, indigenous, people of color, women, LGBTQIA, it's we fight all the time. And you want to come up for air sometimes, but it just won't let us. But the minute we come up for air, they come right back, and then we have to go back and start over again. That is what struggle really is. That is what, the operative word is struggle, which isn't glamorous, which isn't pleasant. The operative word is not luxury, it's struggle. And so we just have to keep fighting and stay focused and make it second nature, just like voting. For years, there was voter apathy. There's still too much voter apathy, but we've got to figure out how to make that second nature. Voting is probably the easiest thing we can do to ameliorate our conditions, but being out here in the streets, full-time freedom fighting, is the greatest thing we can do.
I agree with that. And thank you so much for speaking with us, seriously. And again, for people just joining us, we are marching with the Black Women's Roundtable and a number of other civil rights leaders from unions, from environmental groups, calling upon the Senate and the President to protect voting rights at a federal level and stop suppressing communities of color. We're currently marching up past the Capitol. The Senate has now struck down the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, refused to make D.C. a state so far for the People Act, and we are fighting with a Democratic majority that ideally would mean passing these bills, if not easily, at least victoriously. Currently, we're fighting with Senator Joe Manchin, Senator Kristen Sinema, and others who continue to protect the Jim Crow legacy's filibuster, a racist artifact from a time when Southern senators created and utilized it to protect slavery and utilized it again to protect Jim Crow. Activists are currently chanting, "The filibuster has got to go." The filibuster favors white supremacy because so long as you can't pass new legislation, whoever already has power has an incredible advantage. It requires a supermajority right now to pass almost anything in the Senate, which means things like the Voting Rights Act, For the People Act, John Lewis Voting Advancement Act can't pass because we don't have bipartisan support and we don't even have full Democrat support. As a result, all over this country, polling places are being closed. It is getting more and more complex and difficult for people to cast their ballot. Something that Republican parties are counting on as progressive agenda items like paid family leave, climate protection, racial justice initiatives all become increasingly popular with the American public. They know the only way to protect their power is to not allow people to exercise theirs.
Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are, so we tell them, the Black Women's Roundtable, the mighty, mighty round table, black women, round table, black women's round table, everywhere we go.
So, by the way, okay, let's walk. Yeah, sorry. Where do you want us, Will? Where works? Okay. What?
What's the outlet?
Oh, act.tv. We're here with the Black Women's Roundtable. So, yeah, this morning was great. How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh, I feel really good. It's inspirational to be out here with so many like-minded folks that are focused on voting rights.
Exactly. Well, and, you know, everybody just seems so passionate and educated.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody seems like they're going to lead, whether or not who we win. So what do you want next? Like, what is the wish of being out here?
Well, I think the point of being out here is to keep the pressure up on the Senate to pass and preserve voting rights in this country for every American, right? We know that there are hundreds of voting rights, anti-voting rights laws that are being pushed through legislators across the country ahead of the 2022 midterms. It's a direct effort in response to voting Trump out in 2020. Millions of people showed up, and this is an effort to roll that back. All of the expansion that happened as a result of the pandemic, in many places, the ability to vote by mail, to vote by drop box, to vote absentee, a lot of those efforts are being rolled back. And so the point of it is to keep the pressure up and to remind the Senate that the power of the vote has to lie with the people, that we can't allow these tactics to stand, and that we need to protect democracy in our country.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to feel like who the Senate does represent. I mean, when all of the things that voting rights is, people support federal protection for voting rights, something like 80%, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's bizarre to have to fight for this at all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, my parents are in their late 70s and born in the civil rights movement. And so the idea that more than 50, 60 years later, we're still having the battle for the opportunity to vote is ridiculous. And a lot of people don't know that their vote is suppressed until they try to vote and they get turned away. Until they try to vote and it goes provisional because of some technicality. So what we don't want to happen, and the reason that this work going on today is so important, is that people are going to show up and vote in 2022, and it'll be too late to do something about it.
Yes. Well, and you're bringing up a really important point that I don't think is, so people, whether they're returning citizens, returning from incarceration, or people who maybe just have the same name as someone else, they're really using every excuse possible to just get people off the voting rolls.
Every excuse possible. And now you're moving from maybe needing one piece of photo ID to needing two, not having critical early vote days in some states. And so if you work certain days or third shift, you might not be able to go vote during certain hours. If you work 9 to 5 and your voting poll is only open from 9 to 5 and you got to worry about long lines, a 30-minute, 45-minute lunch break might not be long enough to let you go vote. So what can you do? And remember, we're also dealing with working families that have child care needs, senior parents that they're taking care of. So the ability to be able to go vote quickly and accurately, but also conveniently, is what's under attack here. And working families need that. They need as many options as possible to be able to get out and vote.
Well, I mean, it's difficult enough. Like you're saying, if you have kids or parents or multiple jobs, it's difficult enough to remember, much less if you have to wait in long lines and nobody can hand you water and all of a sudden you can't early vote. It's just too much.
Oh, yeah, the attack on the humanity that comes with being able to vote, the ability to help a senior citizen in line, someone that could be battling diabetes and they need a snack. It could be 100 degrees outside and you having to be exposed to the elements just to be able to exercise your right to vote is inhumane. And so this is why this work is so important, and this is why keeping the pressure up is so important. You cannot have the infrastructure bill pass and focus on roads and bridges and internet and not invest in the people that are going to benefit from those services. So we've got to do both. And the ability for people to vote and choose their leadership is a critical part of that.
Absolutely. I feel bad. I should have asked this first. Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Hey, I'm Kara Turrentine, and I'm so excited to get to talk to you about this important topic.
So what, for you as an individual, what was the thing where you're like, okay, I've seen too much. I need to come out here?
Well, it's happening all over the country.
Yeah.
And most people from D.C. are from somewhere else.
True.
And so, you know, I know as a native of Nashville, Tennessee, that it's happening there. It's happening, you know, everywhere I know somebody is happening. And we're all worried about showing up in 2022 and there being some new rule that's going to turn somebody away.
It is incredible. It's hard to get an ID. When I was in college, it took me like a year to get a photo ID because you need to have like birth certificate, 2 other proofs of ID. And if you're, you know, if you have literally any inconvenience, if you move a lot, these are all difficult documents to get together.
Look, college students are the most disenfranchised by some of these voter ID laws because they don't live full-time necessarily where they go to school. And so if they're in their college town 8 months out of the year,
yes, exactly,
then they should be able to vote there.
Right.
Just because they go home over the holidays doesn't mean that their voice shouldn't be counted. And it's an undue burden to ask these college students to fly home
right
6 times a year to vote for mayor and city council and governor when a critical part of the year they're in another town. And so we definitely have to make sure that college students, you know, this is for them too.
No, 100%. Thank you so much for talking with us. This is great. Do you have a Twitter or anything you want people to find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Kara Turrentine, at KARA-TURRENTINE. Call your senator and demand voting rights passed right now.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. It is really beautiful out today. I was really worried about that. Could have been very cold. Thank you so much. All right, so we're now coming up past the Capitol. Hi, Joy.
Will you get George Lambert, who is our Greater Washington?
Of course.
Urban League president?
Sure. Hi, George. How's it going? So, I mean, I think people know we're out here for voting rights. What brings you out here on this fine November afternoon?
We're still marching, very sad commentary in 2021, still pushing hard and fighting for voting rights. Really feel that my democracy, my sanctity is under attack. Many of those hard-won gains, okay, that we fought so hard for, many of our ancestors fought hard for, are under attack. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that seems to be the theme of today. You win this fight, sort of, and then you have to fight it again not that long from now.
It's the unfairness of it. It's the hypocrisy of it as well. I'm a father, but I have 7 grandkids, okay? And I'm determined to really change the scenario for my grandkids, all right? I will continue to march. I was just saying to someone earlier today, I can't count the number of times I've been in a line, just like we are today, marching for many of those rights we've already won. Makes no sense. Again, it's a very sad commentary. We're still here.
Well, and the right to vote is especially sad because that's just basic. We're asking for the bare minimum here.
We're asking for the bare minimum, but this is the right that we've already won. We fought this battle so many years ago. I recall many segregation at one point that were in congressional leaders in Congress, and many of them, you know, although they've gone on, I believe, and changed their position on it. So the fact that we're here again really just says that this is a battle we should not be fighting, as I said, you know, still in 2021.
And did I hear you were a D.C. resident?
I am a native Washington. In other words, I was born in the district. Don't live in the district now, but certainly work every day in the district on behalf of many folks that we fight on.
Well, so can you speak a little bit to the D.C. statehood aspect of that? of this fight and this march?
So, D.C. Statehood is a battle that we should have, won a long time ago. The fact that we're still fighting it. D.C. Statehood, I believe, because of what's occurring in the city now with gentrification, I believe at some point D.C. Statehood will probably come sooner than later. All right. Many of the new folks that have come here to the District of Columbia, they've come from states and other places where this issue makes no sense. So as they begin now to help push pressure on congressional leaders and their own congressional leaders from states they've come from, I believe it's going to really change the scenario for D.C. Statehood in the District of Columbia. It's sad that that may be the lever that's really going to push it, but my sense is that's going to be the lever that's really going to help us to get over the line.
Well, and I think that's very insightful, and I agree with you. Unfortunately, it seems like one of the paths to winning these fights is economic, which is disgusting because economic justice is sort of one of the tools of oppression at play here. That's been brought up a lot today. Labor, fair wages, women being protected in their ability to seek just work. I mean, almost 1 million people live in the District of Columbia, and they could vote at all.
Many people can't vote. It's a right that's certainly denied them. And as I said earlier, folks are coming in from other places now, other parts of the nation. They get it, saying that they're not going to tolerate it. And so they will be really the lever that helped us to push this over the line. So just looking forward for that to happen. But again, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Is there anywhere people can find you or get involved?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is there anywhere people can find you, like social media or organization?
I have a card. Oh, okay. Hold on. I've had that happen too. I thought I bought them.
I do that all the time. Oh, we're passing the Capitol now. We're with ACT.TV, and you can find this stream on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you so much, George. Have a lovely day.
What is due to us? So you need to understand. It can be 90 degrees, it can be 20 degrees. We're going to be here. Yeah. We're going to be here. Yeah. So here's what we say. You got the people outside your door. You got the people outside your door. Say what? The people outside your door. You got the people outside your door. Say what? You got the people outside your door. 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 Say what? You got the people outside your door. You got the people outside your door. Yes.
202.
All power, all people. It will never be divided. The people united 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 will never be divided.
For those just joining us now, we are marching with the Black Women's Roundtable and a number of other organizations and activists towards the Supreme Court, marching for voting rights and everything that represents.
Reverend Bill, the black women said, tie your shoes.
Tie your shoes, Reverend Bill. We can't have you falling. Yeah, we're not moving. Yeah. There we go. Yes! Our vote is sacred. Republicans can't take it. Our vote can take it. Our vote is sacred and nobody can take it. Our vote is sacred and nobody can take it. Our vote is sacred and nobody can take it. Our vote is sacred and nobody can take it. And you
marching towards the Supreme Court in protest of 400 voter suppression bills all over this country and Republican majority legislators.
Who got the power? We got the power.
It has historically always been incredibly precarious for communities of color to vote, as they receive less resources and more voting restrictions than privileged Caucasian communities in America. But this blowback is a response to 2020, a year where more black people voted than ever before. And Georgia was won single-handedly by the organizing of black women for Democrats.
What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want it? Now. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get them, shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. We gotta keep walking down. Don't get them, shut it down. So what do we want? Voting rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want?
Hi. Could you talk to us a little bit about what brings
Sure. So we're here from Georgia, and we're fighting for our voting rights. We want Build Back Better to get passed today, and we want voting rights to follow right after. The John Lewis voting rights is important to us. So we're black women, once again, coming to Washington to say we want our Congress people to work for us. This is the people's house, and we need the people to be here so that we can continue to fight for our rights. So we're here representing our state of Georgia, the home of good trouble, the home of good trouble. John Lewis and good trouble. Georgia is on our mind. So we're here. The front line is Georgia. We're here. The South is here. And we will rise again. Thank you. Peace. People could help by calling their Congress people to tell them to pass the Build Back Better rights now and pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act now. We need that right now, and we need money for the HBCUs. Historically black colleges depend on this money, and we need it now. So we're here not asking, we're here demanding that Congress end the filibuster and do what it takes to fight for our people. This is what the people want. This is why we elected them. We want them to make sure that they build this country back better. And you're doing it on the backs of black women. And black women are demanding that it's passed right now. And we want the Voting Act to be passed right now. John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Bill needs to be passed. My name is Deborah Scott, and I'm with Georgia Stand Up.
So, Georgia, you guys killed it these past couple of years. What has it been like on the ground?
It's been hard because everyone counted out Georgia, and Georgia did not count itself out. We knew that we had the power to change laws. We knew we had the power to elect people. And we were the secret sauce, black women. They underestimated us, underfunded us, but we knew we had to do what it took for our people. Our lives depend on it. Our communities' lives depend on it. So we did what we had to do to make sure that this happened, and we will do it again. But we're tired of fighting, but we're not tired of fighting. We're tired of having to fight the same fight. This country should progress and move forward. And we want to make sure that they hear from us. So we keep coming back to Washington because we want Washington to know that Georgia, Alabama, Texas, we're all watching you, and we need you to do the right thing.
And a lot of these members are here because of y'all and because of your organizing.
Yes, we have elected 2 senators. The first black senator of the state of Georgia is Raphael Warnock, and the first Jewish senator from the state of Georgia is Ossoff. And so we need to keep them there. But it's not about them as individuals. It's about the representation that they hold. They hold our power. They hold our votes, and we need them to vote for us. And we know that they're there for us, but we want to make sure they know we're here for them. So these people represent their constituents, and their constituents say, fight on, make sure you pass these bills. Build Back Better and the Voting Rights Act today.
So what's next?
What's next? We're going to keep fighting. We're going to expect that they're passing. We're going to expect that the voting rights gets passed this week. We're going to expect that the Build Back Better gets passed this week. And we're going to expect that this country turns itself around because we elected them to represent us. That's what we expect. We expect those that we put in office to represent our interests. So we're calling on President Biden to do the right thing by its people. Do the right thing and put just as much emphasis on that they
that he did on the infrastructure bill, on Build Back Better, and on the voting rights, because he would not be there without black women standing in the gap and making sure that we got people registered to vote. So we're calling on him and we're calling on this administration to do the right thing by its people. The people have spoken, the people have voted, and we're saying that this is the time, this is our time, and we're expecting democracy to work in our favor.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for being here. It shouldn't be unnecessary.
It shouldn't. Not when we won. Now, if you lose, that's another thing. But when you won, you expect there's some victors to go to the spoils, right? So we expect people to get what they paid for, to get what they worked for. And so what we're asking people to do is to understand that the power of this democracy rests in its people. The power of this democracy rests in women organizing and doing what it takes to make sure that we get what we need. And that's why we're here. This is the fight for our lives. We want them to end the filibuster. The filibuster has got to go. Right now, they're holding up progress. So this country is not a democracy until you listen to the people and say, the people have spoken and this is what they want. And that's what we're saying. We don't want what we didn't pay for. We already paid for this. So we have the receipts for all the work that we've done. And we want to say that this time, black women will not be taken advantage of. This time, black women will get what they want and what they deserve. This time, we're demanding that this Congress, that this senators, and the filibuster, and pass Build Back Better, and pass the Voting Rights Act right now. This is what we're demanding right now. So we stand in solidarity with all of these women and all of these allies, and we'll keep coming back. I've been arrested. I've been to jail. I've marched 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, and we're going to keep doing it.
Thank you so much. You're amazing. Thank you. We're almost to Supreme Court with some of the most inspiring civil rights leaders of our generation. President to do their job and protect every American's inalienable right to vote. The filibuster has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. The filibuster has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. The filibuster has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. The filibuster has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. The filibuster has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. The filibuster has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. The filibuster has got to go. So what do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want it? Now. And what do we want? Voting rights. And when do we want them? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. If we don't get them, shut it down. If we don't get them, shut it down. We said if we don't get them, shut it down. If we don't get them, shut it down. We said if we don't get them, shut it down. So what do we want? Voting rights. And when do we want them? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Voting rights. When do we want them? Now. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. I said tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy I can't hear you. Tell me what democracy looks like. We are now walking up to the Supreme Court with a Black Women's Roundtable and a number of other organizations.
This is what democracy
I
said
tell me what
democracy looks like.
This is what democracy
I said tell me what
democracy
looks like.
or their economic status,
or
whether or
tell
not they
me
want a
what
bottle of water
democracy
while they're
looks
waiting
like.
in line.
This is what democracy looks like. So tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks
We've
like.
heard from all these incredible women this morning.
What does
including
democracy
women
look
who are
like?
labor leaders.
Say, I am what democracy looks like.
Economic
I said we are what democracy looks like. I am what democracy looks like. I said we are what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like.
theme here is that these are the very same women who organized and elected a lot of the people that are in that Capitol building right there. And it's a dark irony that the people who get you elected then have to hold you accountable to do the things you claimed you were going to do.
Really?
They told me they were going to say that for me.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Voting rights! When do we want it? Now! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! Pass the what? Voting rights! Pass the what? Voting rights! When do we want it? Now! When do we want it? Voting rights! Woo! Freedom! What do we want? Freedom! Freedom! What do we want? When do we want it? Now! No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Yeah. All right, give yourselves a hand. Freedom. A free. It ain't free. It's expensive. Woo. Come see when we ready. Who needs water? Can you take a quick water? Yeah. Water break. You need water? I got some. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? It's not on. It's not on. Mic check 1. Mic check no. Good afternoon. My name is Melanie Campbell. I'm the president and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and convener of the Black Women's Roundtable. And I'm here with my co-convener for the Black Women and Allies Freedom Walk for Voting Rights and Economic Justice.
Good afternoon. I'm Janice Mathis, Executive Director of the National Council of Negro Women. Proud and pleased to be here because indeed this is what democracy looks like. We have assembled, thanks to the convening power of our modern day Darth, a remarkable collaboration of more than 30 women's organizations to say democracy looks like is the right to vote for every American. So today we're going to call on a number of speakers, but suffice to say, our demands are simple. We want the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act because we want to restore certain provisions of the Voting Rights Act. We also demand and require the Freedom to Vote Act. It is ironic and shameful, frankly, that we are here today petitioning for the right to vote, a right that every American citizen is born with. But that's where we are, and we're not leaving until we get what we deserve and what some has already said, what we are paid for. what we have fought wars for, what we have died for, and what our grandchildren deserve.
So, my sister Janice, I thank you and Dr. Janetta Besh-Cole, because what we did and what we continue to do is show the power of black women, the power of allyship, the power of coalition. We're also out here with our leaders from labor in the house, faith community in the house, civil rights community in the house, state leaders in the house. We got entertainers in the house. We got public officials in the house. We got this young man. What's your name, young man?
Jeremiah.
And how old are you?
10.
And where do you go to school?
Court Kelly Elementary School.
And what do you want?
Voting rights.
When do you want it?
Now.
What do you want?
Voting rights.
When do you want it?
Now.
Let me hear you. What do you want?
Voting rights.
When do you want it?
Now.
No justice, no peace. So we got young people out here, Black You Vote. Are you in the house? So we're going to ask, I don't see Reverend Dr. Leslie Copeland-Toon, so we have a faith leader in the house that will come and give us, Reverend Tony Lee, my pastor, come up, give us an inspiration. Allies in the house.
I'm sorry. My brothers and my sisters, my honor and privilege to be here today. We are grateful to God for all these amazing sisters who are holding it down. We are grateful to God for the sisters who have continuously throughout history been the ones in the forefront. And we come today as allies, as the brothers beside you and behind you, being able to walk along this journey together. And we come today to tell this Congress, we come today to tell the leadership of this nation that we should not have to beg for what is our right. That it is our right, our inalienable right to vote. It is our right. It is a right. It is our right to be able to vote. We should not have to beg for what is our right. It is our right. Let me say it again. It is our right. That's why we call it what? Voting rights. Because it is our right. We are sick and tired in this nation of having to come and to beg you to do right about rights. We are calling on you today to do right about rights and to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, to pass every issue that's in front of you, because now is the time. I come to encourage my sisters and my brothers who are allies. Do not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season, we're going to keep on showing up. We're going to keep on acting up. We're going to keep on putting on pressure. Somebody shout pressure. We're going to keep on putting on pressure until you do right. You're going to see us day in and day out in the cold and the heat, but we're going to be here, and whatever we have to do, we'll do it, and God is our witness. You will do right for our rights. God bless you today.
Thank you, Reverend Tony Lee. And now we will hear from another brother from another mother, my brother from another mother. One of our, he has a really cool smile, but don't let it fool you. He comes from a place called New Orleans. And he Mayor for Life Corps down there in New Orleans. Yeah, if I call and I say, I'm a friend of Mark Morial, I'm good. I'm good for the whole time. If you're not, you might have a problem. But he has never stopped serving the people. And so I thank him. We thank you, Brother Mark, for coming out. He is currently, and been there not a long time, but been rocking it up there in New York and across the country. He is the president and CEO of the National Urban League. My brother, our friend, Mark Morial.
What do we want? I don't hear you. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Now. I am just honored to be here with my sister in this powerful struggle, Melanie Campbell, and all of the sisters who are fighting this for voting rights and justice in these times. I want to acknowledge my brother Derek Johnson, who is, you see, we got this Louisiana, Mississippi thing going, and it's a special kind of thing. And yeah, he's from Detroit, but we let him claim, he done claim Mississippi too. I want to say this, we are at a point of crossroads. We are at a point of incredible emergency and urgency when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to democracy. And we want to send a message to friends, and to frenemies, and to foes alike today, that we will not settle for the okie doke. We will not settle for lip service. We will not settle for hollow words. And we will not settle for inaction when it comes to the protection of the right to vote. Now here is an astounding, for me, thing. I look up at the words inscribed on the Supreme Court, equal justice under law. And burned in my mind is this photograph of Thurgood Marshall and a number of other NCBCP lawyers in 1954, May 17th, that incredible day when the Supreme Court, made up at that time of 9 white men, all born in the 1800s, had the conviction and the vision to understand that the sin of the Plessy decision had to be overturned. And you know, down in Louisiana, finally, Homer Plessy is going to get pardoned by the pardon board and by the governor. But it's long overdue. And to think that the grandchildren and children of Thurgood Marshall and that generation have to stand in front of this temple of justice one more time, some 60 years later, to plead and to fight for what is just and right is incredible. Amen. But we have been dealt this hand at this time, and we have no moment to be tired, no moment to make excuses, no moment to feel sorry for ourselves, no moment for self-pity. It's a moment to fight. And it's a moment to be upset and mad and angry, but to learn the lessons that we must channel and direct our madness, our anger in a constructive way. In a constructive way, to say to the United States Senate, I don't want to hear about the Strom-Thurmond filibuster. I don't want you to tell me that the Strom-Thurmond filibuster is like one of the 10 Commandments or like a provision of the Constitution. If it takes carving it out, if it takes reforming it, if it takes getting rid of it, we want voting rights and we want it now. So we are escalating this. I want to thank Derek and Melanie and Janetta, Reverend Al, Janice, all of us who've come together on this scorecard. This scorecard, now we've given what the teachers call a midterm grade. And there are a number of people who claim to be our allies and friends that ended up with an I. We want them to step up and let us know and be clear that if the filibuster So I want to thank Melanie for keeping this fire alive, but we are going to have to escalate this battle in the next several weeks and the next several months. And one thing I want our community to understand, when you look at what is happening in 47 states, when you look at the legislation that has been proposed, and the absurdity of it, and the scale of it, and the wickedness of it, it almost makes the 60s look like a Sunday school picnic. They're going beyond and using every twist and every turn. And unfortunately, they've been aided and abetted by press in New Orleans about Plessy. I'm going to say it, I got asked by press in New Orleans about Plessy. And I want to let you know, on the Plessy court, there was a justice on the Supreme Court at that time from Louisiana named Edward Douglas White, E.D. White. Until about a year ago, a statue of White stood in front of the Louisiana Supreme Court. One of the last acts of the courageous African-American woman who served as Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court, Burnett Johnson, before she retired December a year ago, was that she took the statue of Douglas from in front of the Supreme Court and put it in a storage closet inside. This Supreme Court, in the Shelby case and in the Brnovich case, are joining with the Dred Scott Court and the Plessy Court. And I'll say it as an officer of this court, as a member of this Supreme Court, a practicing lawyer in front of this court, that these decisions represent a low point in the history of this court. I want everyone to know what we are facing. We're not facing a usual situation. There are members of the United States Senate who today stand as a blockade to the passage of voting rights, who 15 years ago voted for the extension of voting rights. That's right. They flip-flop their position. They flip-flop their position. And we need to call them to task for the consistent inconsistency that goes along. So I'm here to pledge the full faith, support, and credit of the National Urban League to you and the courageous sisters who have not let this flame die and who continue to bring this truth and this cause for justice to the streets of Washington, but also to the consciousness of America. So God bless you. And what do we want? And when do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it?
Now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark Morial, and thank you for the support of the National Urban League, one of the nation's foremost institutions fighting for economic justice for our people all over this country. We're proud to stand with the Black Women's Roundtable. I represent the National Council of Negro Women. I see members of NCNW here from Richmond, from all across the DMV, from Baltimore. I see our men's division being represented here by its co-chair, Randus Wallace. But we got one other partner here. Sometimes I call him Big Blue. I remember the last time we were trying to get the Voting Rights Act passed back in 2005, 2006. We were planning a march in Atlanta, keep the vote alive in Atlanta. Some 15,000 people, about scared me to death. Biggest thing I'd ever worked on, Mark, since I passed the bar exam. But I knew there was one thing I had to do before I could really say we were going to have a march, a significant demonstration in support of the Voting Rights Act. I had to go to the NCBCP convention and ask them to participate and convince them that it was a good thing to do. Today we have standing here with us without any convincing, without any cajoling, the president of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the nation's biggest, oldest civil rights organization in the United States of America, Mr. Derrick Johnson.
Thank you, Janice, and thank you, Melanie. You know, Melanie sent a text message to me and Mark on, I believe it was Thursday. She said, would you all join us on Tuesday? And we both responded immediately and said we will be there. Understanding that today is a year and a week from black folks going to the polls, saving democracy.
That's right.
Saving democracy. For the NAACP, people say, well, why haven't you been out there getting arrested? I'm not interested in performative events. I am standing with Melanie because she's going to lead the way here. But for the NAACP, we filed 17 lawsuits across the country.
That's right.
We are calling on the Players Association not to go to Texas. We are establishing a protocol to understand, let our friends and enemies understand one thing. We have no permanent friends. We have no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. You look at that, Gary Peters, an incomplete. Hold it up, Jamal. Gary Peters is a senator from Michigan. He could not have won but for black folks in Wayne County, i.e. Detroit. And for him to stand in the way of voting rights protections to be put in place, shame on him. Look at Delaware. Chris Combs, who could not get elected as a senator from Delaware but for black votes. And here he is standing in the way of our democracy. Go to California. Senator Feinstein, someone who prides herself as being liberal and yet still scored an incomplete. Individuals who understand history know that during the civil rights movement, the strategy of segregationists was to use the filibuster to impede progress for black folks. Now, when I first came to the Capitol, it was a congressman out of St. Louis. He was a wonderful guy. He was a hell of a speaker, William Gray. And he would tell these stories about how that first class of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, they got elected, and they organized the caucus, and they recognized they were only there because of the sacrifices in Alabama and in Mississippi and in Georgia. Let me pause on Georgia, and I see the Georgia cartel in the house, Helen Butler and Brenda, the whole group. And he talked about, but for that sacrifice, he would not have been a member of Congress. And he said, he wrote a book, No Permanent Friends, No Permanent Enemies, Only Permanent Interests. Because he recognized even those who were standing shoulder and shoulder with him oftentimes would deviate from the positions that was in our best interest for their own political expediency. At the end of the day, voting rights protection isn't a partisan exercise. It's an exercise around protecting our Constitution. And as we have done repeatedly around saving democracy, if we don't get voting rights protections before the end of this year, not in January, not in February, before the end of this year, the legacy of this president will be undone. It doesn't matter what the infrastructure bill. It will be undone. Republicans are already taking credit for that. The opportunity that we presented this nation will be undone. They already turned the clock back on some of the progress being made. It is important for us to understand that through a strategy of all of us standing together, when it comes to mass demonstration, this is who the NAACP going to stand with, Melody. Because as the other come in and trying to get news headlines, it's not about the performative activity, it's about the outcome of voting rights protection. And so, as I stand with my colleague from Louisiana and supporting black women in this moment, Janice and Melanie have led the way here as we file lawsuits and Mark is negotiating legislatively, as we are asking athletes not to go to Texas, as we are issuing report cards. This year, we must adopt voting protections because we know our history have told us when we fight, we win.
When we fight, we win.
We know that when John Lewis stood on Edmund Pettus Bridge, that was a fight. We won. When students went to Mississippi for Freedom Summer, there was a fight. We won. When black folks took up arms and reinforced Sherman's army to defeat the Confederacy so that white supremacy wouldn't dominate our lives, we saved the Union. When we fight, we win. When we stood in line a year and a week ago, some people for 7 hours, to ensure our democracy would be saved, that was a fight. And we won. And as we stand here today, I can assure you, when we fight, we will win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Peace and power.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Derek Johnson and the NAACP, Jamal, and all. And hey, look. Pay attention to those scorecards. Okay, we put them in, and we can what? All right. So now we will hear from our sister Cleola Brown, National President, APRI, A. Philip Randolph Institute, and also Director, Civil and Human and Women's Rights, AFL-CIO. Following her is Wanda Mosley, National Field Director, Black Voters Matter. Following her, Anna Lilia. I hope I'm not messing up. I get this. Majia. Not so much. You can correct me, sis. Anna Lilia. Majia. Mahia. Thank you. Anna Lilia. Mahia, co-executive director, Center for Popular Democracy. Is Bob here? Bob? Sakaniwa. Thank you. Sakaniwa, senior policy advisors. APIA Vote. APIA Vote. Following Bob will be Sheila Katz, CEO, National Council of Jewish Women. And last on this segment is Virginia Solomon, President and CEO, League of Women Voters, USA. This is Black Women and Allies. This is about black, white, brown, yellow. And like Dr. Laurie used to say, and we all together, Dr. Laurie used to tell us, all of us coming together in unity and in full purpose. Cleola, then we will have Wanda, Anna Lilia, Bob, Sheila, and Virginia.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. If you bring them from Georgia, you can't take the Georgia out of them, right? And we say thank God for that because y'all turned it out in Georgia. Y'all made the difference in the country. Even got all the way to Glamour magazine, right, Helen? That's what I'm talking about. Can be powerful and show them that women can do just about anything. It's an amazing honor to hear all of the previous speakers because they bring about the legacy organizations that they represent. But it also speaks to the legacy that we have to build up and to make stronger. A part of the responsibility of fighting for this vote is to know where you came from. There were people and ancestors that spoke to us early on. Anyone here that's older than 40? Let me see your hand. The rest of y'all are lying, and I know it, okay? But if you're 40 or older, you had a grandmama or somebody that told you, no matter what, you gonna vote. And we get to 2021, and these suckers are trying to steal our vote from us. If you see them, if you hear them, if you know them, believe them for what they are. Like Maya said, if they show you who you are, believe it. The second chance is not something that we take on voting rights. And if we don't keep doing what we're doing, if we don't keep marching, if we don't keep singing, if we don't keep knocking on doors, if we don't keep calling people out who talk the talk but don't walk the walk, then it's on our shoulders that the responsibility will have fallen apart. We have got to keep it moving. We walked up the streets talking about, tell me, what does democracy look like? This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. We've got work to do, y'all, and we won't get tired no kind of way until justice is served. Thank you all so very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Wanda Mosley. I'm the National Field Director at Black Voters Matter. You know, when the alarm clock went off at 4:55 this morning, yes, 4:55, and then when I finally got up at 5:50 this morning, I had mixed emotions. Because on the one hand, we know why we're here. We're here because of, let's just call it what it is, white supremacy. But anytime you have a chance to be in space with Janice and Melanie and Helen and all these wonderful black women who are strong leaders, my sister from Georgia, stand up over here. You get on the plane, you get out of the bed and you get here. And you sit and you listen and you learn and you understand what is against us. But you also know that you're not in this fight alone. You know that we have wonderful allies. Shout out to all the brothers who are here. Shout out to everybody else, all the freedom fighters who are here to demand our right as citizens of this country, our right to vote. So as I'm here with you today on this 16th day of November, in the year of our Lord 2021, I say to myself, wow, 2021 is almost over. Like the brother said earlier, we're just a little bit over past a year when Georgia did a thing. And then we saw Georgia come back and do that thing 2 more times on January 5th. But we say to ourselves, wow, just days later, we saw the egregious voter suppression bills fly through the Georgia legislature. Then we saw them copied and pasted in over 40 other states. And then we quickly reminded ourselves why we fight. We quickly reminded ourselves, oh, wait, we are still living in the era of Jim Crow 2.0. Because in the year of our Lord 2021, we can do a thing. But at the same time, we have to understand the circumstances in which we are working. So we're in a place in time where a late winter spring storm can render one of the biggest states in the country basically taken back to a third world nation. Because we have lawmakers, quote unquote, who are so busy worrying about decisions that me and my doctor make that they can't fix a grid, that they can't keep the lights on, that they can't give people clean drinking water. Let's talk about clean drinking water, because also in the year of our Lord 2021, people in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and Denmark, South Carolina, they are taking empty jugs to a spring, to a creek, to get clean water because their local government, their state government, and the federal government has failed them. We can't even get clean drinking water. Oh, but wait. You can be a 17-year-old boy in America, murder 2 people in cold blood And police will do what? Offer you a bottle of water. But I can't be in the state of Georgia where people have to stand in line 6, 8, 9 hours to vote and offer them a bottle of water without risking arrest. So understand, we know what we are up against. But as we say at Black Voters Matter, can't stop, won't stop. Because what you won't do is outwork us. What you won't do is out-organize us. What you won't do is out-strategize us. Because guess what? When we did that thing last year in Georgia, and then we came back and did it again, it was in the midst of voter suppression. It ain't new. It was also in the midst of a pandemic. And yet, and still, we did those things. Because notice I didn't say that people in Denmark, South Carolina accepted the dirty water. Notice I didn't say that people in Benton Harbor, Michigan don't go get those bottles of water. Notice I didn't say that anybody gives up and succumbs to their circumstances. We fight because that's what we do. Because history has shown us what? When we fight, we win. So we will continue to fight. We will continue to resist. We will continue to out-organize. We will continue to build power. And before I go, I'm going to just tell you one more little story because I don't want to leave without giving you hope. We know our voting rights are under attack. We know we are in the midst of the racial gerrymandering happening all across the state where they are stealing power at the local level, county level, state level, federal. But I'm going to tell you a quick story about people in Middle Georgia, in a 5-county region, where their state representative, because I'm going to keep it nonpartisan, their state representative is the author of some of these voter suppression bills. But at the same time, he has a nice cushy job as a county attorney. And so when people, when people in Washington County, in Hancock County, and these other 5 counties learned about that, they said, well, wait a minute. How you going to be collecting a check off of my tax dollars, but also at the same time trying to take away my right to vote? No, this is America. We got power. So they went to those counties and they told those elected officials, we don't want him to have that job. They went county to county to county to county to county, all 5. And as it stands right now, if we keep a score, because I keep score, it's the people 3 and that state representative 2, because he has lost 3 jobs. But they didn't stop there, y'all. They said, okay, well, we got local elections coming up. Those 2 counties over here who weren't bold enough and brave enough to do the right thing, you on the ballot. So now we coming for your seats. And now you lost your job. Because that is what power looks like. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Janice. Thank you all for being here. God bless. Stay strong, y'all.
Black voters what?
Matter.
Black voters what?
Matter.
Yes.
Yes. Are we wiping?
All right. Power to the what? People. Power to the what?
People.
All right, well, let me introduce myself first. My name is Ana Lilia Mejia. I know it's hard. Ana Lilia Mejia. I'm the incoming co-director of Center for Popular Democracy. We are, thank you, I appreciate it. We are a powerful network of 48 base-building, power-building organizations. And I'm proud to stand here united with all of my illustrious sisters and colleagues in the belief that the freedom to thrive and the freedom to vote belongs to every single one of us. Are you with me? Yeah. You don't sound like it. Yeah. No matter our race, our place, our gender, we should have a full say on the decisions that impact our daily lives. And I will say, as a member of the Black diaspora, whose family is maybe new to the country, but not new to the struggle, I am proud that my place is here, standing with all of you to fight for our babies, our communities, our families, and ourselves. Are you with me? Yes. The sad truth is that elements of both sides of the aisle, let's not give anyone a pass, they are not united with us in the belief that we deserve a full voice and full justice. The sad truth is that certain senators continue to use the Jim Crow filibuster to block crucial legislation, in particular, as we know, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, because they know that the full expression of our power only results in deconcentration of the power that the moneyed class, that the powerful self-interests have on our democracy. They know that when we take the power, when we exert full power at the ballot box, they lose their power and control on our democracy. The sad truth is that for many, the effort to suppress equity and access to the poll is just a continuation of a belief system in which the black, the brown, the poor, we may serve the interests of this nation, we may build this nation right on our backs, but we must never get uppity, according to them, to believe that we actually deserve and must have a real place in our governance and self-direction. And I call bullshit. So I'm going to end it here because we've heard a lot of words. I'm going to end it with, our voice is our liberation. Our power is our freedom. And our vote is our right. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So energizing to be in this group at this historic location. I wish we weren't having to repeat history, but here we are. Yes. I'm Bob Sakaniwa with the voting rights organization Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote. APIA is a national nonpartisan organization that strives to mobilize Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to participate in the electoral process. We work with partner organizations in 28 states to engage our communities and to get out the vote. AAPIs have had to overcome many obstacles in our long journey to the ballot box. In 2020, our communities were part of a historic turnout. It was a year that many people didn't want to venture out of their homes, and yet the community figured out a way to deal with it. In 2020, 7 out of 10 AAPIs used mail-in or early voting opportunities to access their right to vote. But what we are seeing today is troubling. 19 states have passed over 30 negative voting bills, bills that are intended to make it harder, not easier, to access your vote. We want laws that provide meaningful access, not laws that suppress the vote. There are 2 important bills sitting over there on a desk somewhere. That over there on the table, but it ain't moving. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. These bills will protect the right to vote and will make voting more accessible. But the Senate has its own form of voting, suppressing the vote. It's called the filibuster. Senators should not be ducking a fair and honest debate on voting rights legislation. Our democratic form of government will not continue to move forward without the ability of all its citizens to have access to the ballot, and that's why we must pass voting rights legislation now.
Yes.
Thank you, Bob.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Let me start with a blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shemezapeh me'etanu la'asok ba'avodat exrachut ha-medina. Blessed are we who engage as citizens, upholding our values of freedom and justice and exercising our power to choose our leaders. This prayer for voting was written by Rabbi Laura Novak Weiner to remind us that voting is a sacred obligation. Sadly, we are in an unthinkable moment when politicians are treating this sacred obligation with disrespect. My name is Sheila Katz, and I'm the CEO of National Council of Jewish Women. For more than 100 years, driven by our Jewish values, we have advocated on behalf of women, children, and families. Core to my Jewish identity is the commandment, Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue. The work towards justice cannot be passive. We can't just assume that things will all just work out. We can't just hope for others to do the right thing. Justice must be pursued. Yesterday, I had the honor to join Melanie, Janice, Kristen, and many other people here at the White House for the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act signing. Thank you to President Biden and Congress for recognizing the urgency of this moment and acknowledging that this work isn't over. Now that the infrastructure bill has been passed, we need the social support investments that are in the Build Back Better framework. Paid leave and childcare are just as vital to restoring the American economy as repairing roads and bridges. We need to ensure parents, women, Black and Indigenous people are not left behind as our country recovers from the pandemic. We are here today pursuing justice, voicing our support for this once-in-a-generation opportunity to rebuild our economy, not just to where we were before the pandemic, but toward an economy that is truly inclusive and responsive to the needs of everyone living in this country. The moral fiber of our nation hangs in the balance. Justice, justice, we shall pursue. We will pursue it here in Washington. We will pursue it in West Virginia. We will pursue it in Texas. We will pursue it in every state in this country, and we will not stop until the right of every American to pursue their sacred obligation to vote is secured, and until Build Back Better is passed, ensuring women, children, and families in this country can not just exist but thrive. Together, we will make this new future a reality. Thank you.
My name is Virginia K. Salaman. I am the CEO of the League of Women Voters. I actually have this nice little remarks set up here, but we all know why we're here today. And so I'm going to speak from my heart. My friend Melanie, when she asked me a few months ago, will you come and get arrested? And I said, sure. Because that's what friends do for each other. But it's also because Black women have been leading the struggle for such a long time. And these women here have been such a role model and an inspiration. And since they've been taking the Senate strategy, our organization decided that we needed to find another target, and that was the White House. We've all heard the saying that the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. And we've seen far too much indifference. It's interesting that everybody thought that things would get better after the last election. Yet here we stand, crying to our friends, screaming out to our friends, the ones who relied on us to get elected, to give us the chance to raise our families, to be able to have adequate child care and health care and climate justice. The fact that we have to do that still under this administration, under this Congress, it's sad. We don't want to be here. Trust me, we have a lot of other things that we could be doing. But yet we find ourselves here still, no different than we were in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So my question to the Senate is, how much longer do we need to wait for justice? The access to the ballot. We're tired of waiting. The John Lewis Voting Rights and Advancement Act should be a no-brainer. The Freedom to Vote Act should be a no-brainer. And as somebody who was a teenage single mom who had to make a choice between voting on election day and making my $7.25 an hour minimum wage, I understand what those choices feel like. I understand what it feels like to have a part-time job to pay for my full-time job so that I could cover my child care costs. But that doesn't have to happen to women and families today, because if we had the Build Back Better Act passed, if we had the economic justice package that we're asking for, so many other people in this country wouldn't have to go through those things. And unfortunately, far too often, it's black and brown women who suffer, even though we are the ones who carry this economy on our backs. So we are here today, I am here today, representing my organization and just saying enough is enough, and that it is time to pass this critical legislation. Thank you, Melanie, and thank you all.
Thank you. I'm going to follow my little great nephew's instructions. He wants to be introduced. Okay. He's been out here with us. So this is Jeremiah Dante Campbell. And he has something to say.
Hello, my name is Jeremiah Dante Campbell. I am a 10-year-old fifth grader, and I am the son of Keofa Parker and Clifford Campbell. Today is the second Freedom Walk for Voting Rights and Justice. I have participated with my auntie, and I'm here today to ask Congress to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, DC Statehood, and the Building Back Better Act now. Because kids like me can't vote yet, so we need the adults in Congress to do the right thing and protect our future. Right to vote and have equal opportunities to live our dreams. Thank you.
Say, what do we want?
Voting rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Voting rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
Yes. Thank you, baby boy.
Sometimes we say that the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, but Jeremiah just taught us that the youth are leading us today. And it is for them that we do this. You know, it doesn't much matter with me now whether I vote again or not. But I've got 3 grandchildren who are ages 5, 7, and 8. And I don't want to leave them without their rights protected. So now we're going to hear from some of our young voices. Oh, okay. I'm going to go a little bit out of order, but that doesn't matter. Moms Rising Executive Director and Co-Founder, Kristen Rowe Finkbeiner. Please welcome Kristen. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you for having me here today. Thank you to Melanie Campbell for leading the way forward. Thank you to all of you for bringing democracy to life in Washington, D.C. Right now, we all know, we've all heard, the assault on voting rights is an assault on democracy. This is not okay. And what I love hearing, what we've been hearing, is that we know that we will win. We know that when we fight, we win. We know that history shows that time and time again, we've rose up against incredible odds and we've won. And we also know something that's really important. There is no racial justice without gender justice, without economic justice, without voting justice. So what do we want? Justice. We want justice.
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
And also we want voting rights, so let's do that one. Oh, now voting rights. What do we want?
Voting rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Voting rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
Actually, we want it yesterday. We do. We really do. I mean, this is ridiculous. We have gone out to the polls. We have stood in lines. We are in a pandemic where the data is showing that women and moms are disproportionately experiencing economic harms, and women of color are experiencing compounded economic and health harms. We know that even through all of that, we marched out to vote. We know that black women brought us the president into the White House right here, right now. We know that our democracy has been saved time and times again by our feet, our voting, our voices, and our actions. So we at Moms Rising join every person here today in telling every single member of Congress today and every day that there is no time to waste. Congress, we expect you to end voter suppression. We expect you to end voter suppression right now. We expect you to block partisan gerrymandering. We expect you to root out corruption. We expect you to end the lies and ethics violations that threaten our election integrity. We expect you to do this right now. We expect you to do this yesterday. We want justice now. We want voting rights now. We need you to pass the Build Back Better Act. We need to make sure that we can go to vote. We need to make sure that we deliver on democracy. So I leave you with 4 words. It is time to deliver. It's time to deliver on democracy, Congress. It's time to deliver on Build Back Better. It's time to Congress to stand up and to vote. Each and every single one of them need to vote. This is not a partisan issue. Everybody should be able to vote. It is time for Congress to stand up and vote so our votes, our voices, our lives, our contributions, our needs are counted right now. And together right now today, we are going to make sure that happens. Because each of us knows that while we are standing here today, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people across the country who cannot be here today, but who are standing up in their homes, at their jobs, out on the road, making changes across the country. So we know that together, right now, we're going to protect our votes, we're going to boost our families, and we're going to build a democracy where every vote is counted and every family can thrive. Every single family needs to be able to thrive. So thank you to Melanie, thank you to everyone who's here who is making these changes for every single person who can't be here. Because we know that you, I, and us together are needed. Thank you so much. Let's do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen, for representing moms who are rising to the occasion to make sure that our voting rights are protected. Because if you believe that we need environmental protection, you won't get it without black women. If you believe that we need a living wage for all workers, you won't get it without black women. If you believe that we fight too many wars and too much military involvement and you want to see an adjustment of the budget, you won't get it without black women. So our causes are united. Now we're going to hear from 2 more representatives of the next generations. Camille Goodwin, Coordinator, Alabama Black Youth Vote, Alabama Coalition on Black Civic Participation, and Zoe Daniels, Coordinator, Georgia Black Youth Vote, Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. Camille and Zoe, please come in that order.
First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Camille Goodman. I am a proud student at the Alabama State University. I am proud to be the Black Youth Vote Coordinator for the state of Alabama. Barack Obama formerly remarked, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time." Here in Washington, D.C., and all over the country, we are seeking changes from outlaw violators and national elected officials that try to control our voting rights. Black Women's Roundtable and Black Youth Vote are not waiting for others to do the work. We demand change and march with a purpose. We are tired of constant obstacles and problematic methods that obstruct taxpayers from voting. As a race, gender, organization, age, and powerful leaders, we have a tremendous voice. We outnumber the violators sitting against our rights. Martin Luther King Jr. stated, "The time is always right to do what is right." As youth and seasoned leaders, we don't waste time. We understand the assignment for what it takes for change. We are going to continue to use our voices and actions to receive justice. We will continue to fight for what is right. We will continue gathering and strategize, being the liaison for the Black community. Being the liaison and the guiding light, the population will continue to grow and overwhelm them with numbers. Voices from all over the country will show accountability and the work we do to receive equity. Lastly, Booker T. Washington quoted, "Success is to be measured not so much by the position one has reached in life as by the obstacles which he has overcome while trying to succeed. All the hard work we are putting now, it will open the doors for justice, and we demand it now." Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Zoe. I'm 20 years old, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a sophomore at Morris Brown College.
All right. I'm a little tall, so I'm trying to.
Okay. Oh, I can take it off? Ooh, okay, awesome. Thank you. So I wanted to start off with this quote. "I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klan, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice," which is from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When I think about this quote, I think about the past couple of election cycles, the blood, sweat, and tears to get where we are today. I think about the rallies and marches surrounding the importance of voting while simultaneously fighting against police violence, COVID-19, and other disparities that are ravishing our communities. We fought day and night for not just justice, but for our voices to be seen, heard, and validated. Black women across the country led the charge to get certain people into office to help our communities prosper, but now it's all being threatened. We are seeing new bills amongst almost every day that are disproportionately affecting marginalized communities, while lawmakers and people with immense power sit idle. Staying silent in times of injustice is privilege, and staying neutral in these situations of injustice is choosing the side of the oppressor. We've done the work and are continuing to do the work to not only better our community, but to also better this country. Like James Baldwin said, "I love America more than any other country in the world, and exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. This is my home, and it is my right to speak on what should be happening in my home. My vote matters, and so does everyone else in this room, or out here. This is not the time to be quiet. Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and pass the Freedom to Vote Act. Speak up and do the work. We have a long road ahead of us, but for one thing for sure, we always prosper." Thank you.
Now we will hear from Ai-jen Poo, co-founder, executive director, National Domestic Workers Alliance, and Fatima Goss Graves, of course, president and CEO of the National Women's Law Center.
I think we are at the end, so we're not going to take too long. But I'm Fatima Goss Graves. I'm president and CEO at the National Women's Law Center. I'm so glad to be up here with all of you who are fighting for dignity and justice and our right in this country. I'm so glad to be up here with my sister Ai-jen, who has been working side by side with all of us, fighting for a care economy. You know, yesterday we've heard mention of the fact that there was a giant signing statement at the White House where we celebrated the fact that this country can do big things. We can make giant investments in communities and in families. We can turn our economy around. We can ensure that there are good paying jobs in every corner of this country, and we celebrated. And I am reminded that we can celebrate and know the work is not done. The work is not done as long as there are mile-long lines to just access the ballot. The work is not done as long as people cannot afford childcare and are paying more on childcare than their groceries, than their gas. They're paying more on childcare than it costs in many states to go to a state college. The work is not done as long as our care economy plan is paid for by the underpaid labor of Black and brown women in this country. And the work is not done as long as we do not have access to paid leave to care for ourselves, to care for our loved ones. We know the agenda. We know we have to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and we have to do it now. We know that we can pass Build Back Better. It's gonna happen.
That's right.
All we have to do is keep reminding everyone in that building and a mile down Pennsylvania Avenue why we are here and that we expect them to deliver. So thank you. And thank you, Melanie.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ai-jen Poo, and I'm the director of the National Domestic Workers Alliance. And on behalf of our community of 230,000 nannies, house cleaners, and home care workers, we want to say thank you for fighting, and we are with you 100,000%. And I want to say thank you to Melanie Campbell. Her leadership has been an inspiration to us. She was with us marching and rallying this morning for Build Back Better, for the care agenda that we know we deserve in this country. When Build Back Better passes, we will win the biggest direct investment in good jobs for women of color in the history of the United States. That is what is in Build Back Better. It is economic justice for women of color like domestic workers who do the work that makes everything else possible in our economy. And domestic workers are here with you because we know that there will be no economic justice without voting rights, and that we must pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. It is long overdue, and we're going to keep fighting for it. And I want to lift up the fact that Black women have always been the backbone of the care economy and the entire economy in this country. And Black women have always fought for economic justice and voting rights. And I want to lift up our movement for Mother, a woman named Dorothy Bolden from Atlanta, Georgia, the founder of the National Domestic Workers Union. She founded a powerful organization. We carry forward her legacy. The only requirements to being a member of the National Domestic Workers Union were, 1, you had to be a domestic worker, and 2, you had to be registered to vote. And that is because she knew that voting rights and economic justice go hand in hand. We carry forward her legacy, and together we're going to win. Thank you so much.
Well, Sister Janice,
We made it again.
what? Are we done yet?
Not quite.
Are we done yet?
Not quite.
So we want to thank you all. Thank you, Ajan. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. For I think this is our, I'm losing count, 8th action. All right. I could be off. Brother Mark Thompson. Mark, come on up here. So Brother Mark Thompson with Make It Plain was supposed to say words. We'll have you say a word because I forgot you were supposed to speak at the other place. Go ahead.
I don't know.
Let's go ahead.
Well, God bless you all. Yes. Oh, you want to do it? I appreciate that.
We need you.
All right, bless you. Thank you. God bless you all. Congratulations to, I think this is the 8th or 9th one, the important work that the National Council of Negro Women is doing, of which I am a life member, I'm proud to say. And the Black Women's Roundtable, the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. Melanie, what Melanie and Janice have been doing, have been leading us in a way that is wholly appropriate and wholly necessary. I actually get a little sentimental when we're down in the building on 633, at 633 Pennsylvania. In 1988, when I was 22 years old, Kathy Hughes first hired me to be on the radio. And the very first interview I did was with a young woman named Dr. Dorothy Height. And she also became a mentor of mine. I feel blessed as a black man to have sat at her feet. In fact, it was funny. Back in those days, we still had pagers. And people would page each other and want to get in touch with people. And my pager was always very busy. One night I got a page, I didn't recognize the number. And it was Dr. Height. And I didn't even know she knew how to page. And once she learned my pager number, now mind you, I was a lot younger back then, and there were other young women paging me as well. And people say, who's this other person keep paging you all the time? And I was most proud to say the young woman whose pages I respected the most was Dr. Dorothy Heights. So we stayed close together through the Million Man March. The work that she did as a black woman to lead us, and I know she would want us to do everything we're doing now. Black women are responsible for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I'm going to say this, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble, so I'm speaking on my own behalf, not anybody else. Yesterday, I was watching the ceremony at the White House. I said something to Clay. And at the end, when everybody went up to the signing table, there was no room left for the vice president, and she had to work her way. Did you all see that? But to me, it is indicative of a problem that we're facing. She is the vice president and should be treated as such. You don't see other vice presidents historically treated that way. As a matter of fact, around this time, vice presidents in succession, there's a runway laid out for some of them to be a successor. So we know some of the negative articles that have been written. We've seen some of the marginalization. We've got to fight against that. We also must see to it that this Build Back Better is done. This infrastructure bill, bipartisan, is one thing. But the Build Back Better is going to be of great benefit, particularly to black women who help keep this party in power. And so lastly, just let me say that it is important for us as men to follow women, to not be intimidated or threatened by women in leadership. Maya Angelou used to say that a black mother's son is the strongest man in the world. So I'm 3 times strong because my household, my 2-parent household, was my mother, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother was my babysitter when they went to work every day. So I understand what it means to respect and honor black women. The great Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah said, you can determine a community's and a nation's revolutionary awareness by the political maturity of its women. And when we struggled to end apartheid in South Africa, the Women's League of the ANC had a saying, you have touched the women, and now you have struck a rock. The National Council of Negro Women, the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, the Black Women's Roundtable, all of these esteemed women's groups here are a solid rock, standing for our voting rights, standing to end this filibuster, standing to get the George Floyd Policing Act passed, and these people having sympathy for Kyle Rittenhouse's mother. We need to have continued sympathy and empathy for the black mothers who have lost their young women and men to gun violence and to vigilante violence and police violence. And so we stand today for this, and we should always stand. It may be the 8th or 9th, but I'm sure it's not going to be the last one. I'll be here for everyone. Melanie texted me too, Derek and Mark, you coming? And I said, well, I need some time, some logistics. And she didn't get back to me, so I had to go over her head and report her to her board member, Tony Lee. I said, I'm going to report your executive director to you because she needs to get back to me, but she finally got back. We're going to continue to be here.
Good to just then. Just messed
We love you all. We're all standing in solidarity. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us again. And so for those who want to just continue the message, I ask you to stand in front, and you know who you are, and we're just going to have a little walk and talk, a little community activism. But this formal part of the day is done. So thank all of our partners. Thank you, my sister Janice Mathis.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you, NCBCP. Thank you, Clay, everybody. So join us and stay tuned. If you want to follow and get involved, go to blackwomentakeaction.org. I want to thank our team at the National Coalition. Wave your hand. We couldn't do it without you. You all know who you are, and I'm in that NCNW as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No justice, no peace. 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 No justice, no justice.
Yeah, I'm gonna start getting the signs from there. We gonna start moving stuff. Josh.
I'm giving y'all the banner.